Chapter 2027. Inside the mountain gate, clear springs flowed and ancient rocks piled up. The man with a long sword on his back was casually squatting on a rock. His clothes were unbuttoned as he drank freely. There was a kind of boorish wildness about him. Zhu Feiyu. He was a core successor of the Demon Court and ranked 8th on the All Heavens King Sage list. Even if he suddenly intervened and caught Kong Zhao off guard, it's not something an ordinary person can do. This Jin Dui is indeed worth paying attention to. In front of a stream, a man took off his boots and soaked his feet in the water. He was flipping through a book in his hands. The man wore plain clothes and had a handsome appearance. His brows were gentle, and he had a head of long silver hair. His expression was gentle and warm. Tu Qinjue, the core successor of the Heaven and Earth Dao Court, ranked 9th on the All Heavens King Saint ranking. Besides Jin Di, there are a few special figures amongst the number 1 experts of the various provinces. For example, the number 1 expert of the Copper Prefecture, Xian Juyin. If I'm not wrong, he's definitely a disciple of the Xin clan. On an ancient tree, a graceful figure stood on an emerald green branch. Her body was covered in clouds. Her beautiful hair was coiled into a bun. Her body was clear as ice, and there was a strange golden Dao marking branded between her brows. Wisps of dreamy and hazy misty luster lingered around her slender body, giving off a mysterious and refined feeling. Misty Rain, the core successor of the Black-Yellow Celestial Court, ranked 7th on the All Heavens King Sage list. Which Xin family? Zhu Feiyu put away the wine gourd and asked in surprise. Is there any other Xian family in the All Heavens that is worthy of our attention? Yin Yuro's voice was like the tinkling of a jade pendant, as pleasant as the sounds of nature. I never expected that such a low-profile and mysterious ancient imperial clan would actually send a disciple to participate in this Dao discussion gathering. Tu Qinju aside. It's not just Xian Jiuyin. Some of the monstrous geniuses who previously disdained to participate in the Grand Dao discussion couldn't help but show up as well. For example, Yu Ruhua and Ji Bai. Both Zhu Feiyu and Tu Qinjue were stunned when they heard Yin Yuro's name. Then, they narrowed their eyes. Let's go. Numerous unexpected and ferocious figures are bound to appear during the Dao discussion this time. Misty Rain's figure was hazy. She floated down the branch and headed towards the depths of the mountain gate. Isn't that even better? If there are no accidents, how can there be any surprises? Zhu Feiyu patted the sword on his back, laughed, and strode away. Surprise? It could also be a shock. Tu Qinjue let out a long sigh and followed. Within Qingmong Divine Mountain, on the peak of a mountain that was suffused with primal chaos qi, there stood an ancient palace made of godly metal. Under the sunlight, it exuded a sacred and solemn aura. Many great figures had gathered within the hall since a long time ago. Merely based on appearance alone, there were men and women, young and old, but all of them were at the Emperor realm. Every single one of them had countless legendary stories. Every one of them was enough to shake the entire starry sky. Kong Zhao is too impudent. I hope Brother Grand Uncle won't laugh at him. An old man from the primordial Dao court spoke with a bitter smile. He wore a Taoist robe and had sparse hair, and he seemed like an old man in the village who had one foot in the grave. But in the starry sky, he had a title that caused the hearts of all living beings to tremble. Juying Battle Emperor. At the seat of honor in the hall, Taishu Hong, who had a refined bearing and a handsome appearance, said with a smile, "This kid, Kong Zhao, has indeed shown off his ability and is arrogant and haughty. He has offended all the young people of the other prefectures earlier." Of course, this was a joke. As the headmaster of the Black-Yellow Taoist court, a well-known figure in the world, Taishu Hong would not care about such a trivial matter. Can you see the origin of Jin Dui? Suddenly, a red-clothed woman spoke. She sat there, flaming fishes surging from her body, swimming about her in a lifelike manner. Upon closer inspection, each of the flaming fish was shockingly formed from the interweaving of supreme Emperor realm laws. She was the Fire Emperor of the Heaven and Earth Taoist Court, an empress who had proved herself in ancient times had a cold temperament and was decisive in killing. She fought in the heavens and killed with great power. The cultivation and means used by this kid are all mysterious. But if you look carefully, you can't find any clues. Maybe he comes from other worlds in the starry sky. Someone muttered, Jean Duyi, this name is really overbearing. Someone laughed and teased, and many Emperor Realm figures laughed with him. Xia Xinglia, who had been sitting on one side drinking, felt a lot relieved. Fortunately, these old things, like himself, were also deceived by this kid sure enough. Soon, no one paid attention to Lin Sun anymore. It was impossible for these Emperor Realm figures present to pay attention to the younger generation. The reason why they talked about Kong Zhao and Lin Sun before was that they were attracted by the battle between the two outside the mountain gate. Everyone, the curtains to the Tao discussion grand meeting will be drawn in 10 days, and the gazes of the all heavens will be gathered here. I like to seize this opportunity to discuss some matters related to the Tao discussion grand meeting with everyone. Sitting in the seat of honor, Tai Shu Hong opened his mouth, and his words made the atmosphere in the hall quiet. Outside the mountain gate, it didn't take long for the strong people from the 48 continents of the primordial world to arrive one after another. Even the practitioners of the black-yellow Taoist court appeared and led the people present into the mountain gate. Inside the mountain gate, there was a world of its own. The mountains were beautiful, the world was picturesque, and the chaotic air fell like a waterfall from the sky. Between the mountains and rivers, there were rows of ancient palaces and rainbow cableways connected to the mountains located in various places. There were spiritual birds and divine beasts walking, and there were exotic flowers and plants. Even the air was as rich as a sweet spring. Walking in it was like entering a pure land of immortals and coming to the country where the gods lived. Lin Sun and other dazzling figures from various provinces had seen many blessed places since they started their cultivation. Their vision and experience were extremely rich. But when they arrived here, they still had a feeling of confusion and shock in their hearts. This was Qingmong Mountain, the place where the black-yellow Taoist court, one of the 6 major Taoist courts, was a holy land that all the practitioners in the world yearned for. Along the way, Lin Sun and others would have been lost in it if they hadn't been led. Because this expanse of the heavens and the earth was simply comparable to a world, and it was filled with paradises that were scattered all over like the stars in the sky. They were arranged in picturesque disorder, vast and magnificent. In the end, Lin Sun and others were arranged to stay on a mountain called Tianyi. This mountain was tens of thousands of meters high, towering and majestic. There were courtyards on it like a long, winding dragon distributed on it. Lin Sun and other strong practitioners of Cloud State were arranged in a row of courtyards halfway up the mountain. Everyone, the grand meeting of Tao discussion will be held in the black-yellow main peak 10 days later. At that time, someone will come and pick you up. During this period, if there is nothing else, please don't leave this place. The strong practitioner of the black-yellow Taoist court, who led Lin Sun and others here, warned them and then turned away. Until now, Guansu seemed to feel a lot more relaxed. He sighed with a complicated expression. Compared with the black-yellow Taoist court, all the orthodoxies in our Cloud State are not enough. He was the leader of the first orthodoxy in Cloud State. In Cloud State, he was also an existence that all living beings could look up to. But since he came to the black-yellow Taoist court, he had a sense of restraint and awe that he didn't even dare to breathe. Lin Sun, Lu Dubu, and others also sighed with emotion. The black-yellow Taoist court was really amazing. Every blade of grass and tree that could be seen everywhere here were all rare treasures in the outside world. The blessed places distributed here were even more amazing. There were chaotic spiritual veins that were enough to make people in the Emperor Realm interested, and they were covered with ancient traces of Tao. It was no exaggeration to say that even a pig who cultivated in such a rare blessed place in the world might be able to prove its Tao and become a sage. It's not that we are inferior to the people of the 6 Taoist courts. It's just that the cultivation resources they have are not comparable to us at all. Wang Tu sighed. Others also sighed for a while. Why were the descendants of the 6 Taoist courts so powerful? Just from the atmosphere of the black-yellow Taoist court, some clues could be seen. Lin Sun said, "Cultivation resources are only part of it. In the final analysis, the pursuit of Tao depends on one's own ability. If one's state of mind is not strong enough, experience is not enough, and will is not strong enough, even if there are great resources, he is doomed to achieve nothing." Many people were stunned, and then they revealed contemplative expressions. Guansu nodded and said, "You're right. However, a power like the dark yellow Tao court has definitely gone through layer upon layer of selection and tests when they recruit disciples, and the people they choose are definitely outstanding talents that are 1 in a million. Only in this way would their disciples be so dazzling, and only then would the dark yellow Tao court possess the foundation it has today." After chatting for a while, everyone dispersed and returned to their own courtyards. What they saw and heard today was an unprecedented experience for them. Moreover, the Tao Discussion Conference would begin in 10 days, and they also needed time to prepare. In a courtyard, Lin Sun walked into one of the rooms, sat cross-legged on the ground, and began to meditate. His state of mind was not affected from beginning to end. Indeed, this was the black-yellow Taoist court, the pilgrimage place in the hearts of all the practitioners in the world. There were countless Emperor Realm legends. It was even very likely that there was an ancestor of Tao. But so what? Lin Sun knew very well that the purpose of his coming here was the Tao Discussion Conference. In his palm, a jade slip emerged. Lin Sun probed into it with his spiritual awareness and began to meditate. This jade slip was the cultivation experience of Senior Xian Kong after he proved his Tao and became a saint. It gathered his painstaking efforts and secrets to become invincible in the saint realm. For other practitioners, it was impossible to comprehend the contents recorded in this jade slip at all, because it involved the road of Tao that had never existed since ancient times, which was too difficult to understand. But for Lin Sun, when he was comprehending this jade slip, it was like meeting a once-in-a-lifetime confidant on the road of Tao. What was recorded in it made him feel regretful that he hadn't met Xian Kong earlier. It turns out that Senior Xian Kong was also confused about the Tao field. After a long time, Lin Sun's black eyes lit up. He read some insights and experiences about Xian Kong condensing the Tao field. One more update. The goldfish had not been able to complete the update before midnight. It was equivalent to the goldfish going back on its word once. It was here to apologize to everyone. Goldfish didn't stop updating before and after his marriage, but he made mistakes in updating. It was indeed because there were many trivial things in life. Chapter 2028. What was extreme? There was nothing he wouldn't do. This was the mystery that Xian Kong comprehended when he condensed the field of Tao. Using every conceivable means not to act recklessly, but to use all of one's strength to the extreme. Lin Sun murmured, "What an extreme!" Cultivators took care of the 3 paths of body refining, chi refining, and soul refining, which could be regarded as cultivation. In addition, there was also the state of mind, will, and wisdom. If all these forces could be deduced to the extreme and integrated into the field of Tao, how terrifying would that power be? Next, Lin Sun was immersed in meditation, unaware of the passage of time. 10 days later, in the early morning, "Taoism friends from Qingzhou, please come with me. Taoism friends from Mingzhou, please come with me. Taoism friends from Mingzhou, please come with me." Voices resounded throughout the lone sky peak. A group of descendants of dark yellow Taoism court appeared in the void in the distance. They came to receive the strong cultivators from various provinces. Because today was the day of the Tao Discussion Conference. In the cave residence, Lin Sun, who was meditating cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes and stood up. 10 days of meditation on the jade slip left by senior brother Xian Kong is equivalent to a great fortune. Lin Sun put his hands behind his back and walked out of the cave residence. Outside the cave residence, Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, Xie Yuhua, Wang Tu, and others had already gathered. Go, whether you succeed or fail. It's enough as long as you don't fail what you have learned. Guansu looked solemn and exhorted. He was just a guide, and the task of this trip had been completed. Next, it was up to Lin Sun and others' performance. Thank you for taking care of us all the way. Lin Sun and others all saluted him. Although Guan Su was the leader of the Great Void Taoism sect, he had no sectarian bias. He took great care of them along the way, which made them respect him from the bottom of their hearts. Let's go. One of the descendants of Dark Yellow Taoism court, who was in charge of receiving them, rose into the air and flew away with Lin Sun and others. Brother Jean, I heard that the Tao discussion this time will be held in the Skyreath Secret Realm. After a series of battles, only 108 people will emerge from the competition, and the others will be eliminated. They won't have the chance to head to the ancient, immortal restricted area to compete for fortune. On the way, Lu Dubu suddenly transmitted his voice to Lin Sun. I have discussed with Xie Yuhua, Wang Tu, Su Muhan, and Lung Xiujia that we will become allies after entering the Xianhuang Secret Realm. I wonder if Brother Jean and Miss Xianyue are interested in joining us? Lin Sun was in a daze, but he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pondered and asked, what about Wu Huang, Tung Yichen, and Gai Shanxing? Lu Dubu said, Wu Huang and the other two have formed an alliance. Lin Sun said, well, when we enter the Xianhuang Secret Realm, if there's a chance to act together, Miss Xianyue and I will not refuse. Lu Dubu cheerfully nodded. That would be the best. While they were talking, Lin Sun and the others had arrived at an ancient and beautiful mountain peak and landed on a spacious platform. So many. Wang Tu looked around. There were already hundreds and thousands of figures gathered near the platform. Among them, the cultivators from other states were arranged in the same area, while the geniuses from other worlds in the starry sky were distributed in another area. In addition, the cultivators from the 6 major Tao courts, the 10 war clans, and the other Central Plains Tao estates were gathered in another area. It was like a tripartite confrontation. When Lin Sun and the others arrived, they attracted a lot of attention. Look, that guy is Jin Dui. When he arrived at Qingmong Divine Mountain 10 days ago, he made Kong Zhao suffer a small loss. He doesn't look like anything special. This is what it means to hide your strength. Many discussions revolve around Lin Sun. Even the geniuses from other worlds in the starry sky and the descendants of the 6 major Tao courts had their eyes on Lin Sun. Kong Zhao was ranked 5th on the All Heavens King Sage list. He had been famous in the starry sky for a long time, but 10 days ago, he was injured by Lin Sun. Although it was a small injury, it still attracted a lot of attention. Therefore, when Lin Sun appeared, it attracted a lot of attention and discussion. Humph! In the camp of the primitive Tao court, Kong Zhao's expression was uncertain, and there was an unspeakable anger in his heart. The more attention Lin Sun received, the more he felt humiliated. Boy, does it feel good to be the center of attention? Don't worry, when we enter the Xianhuang Secret Realm, I will kill you. He transmitted his voice coldly, not concealing his killing intent. Lin Sun glanced at him calmly and didn't pay attention to him anymore. Jin Dui, we meet again. Soon, someone transmitted his voice again. Lin Sun looked up and saw Zhuanqiu Heng in a purple robe in the camp of the Universe Taoist court looking at him. Zhuanqiu Heng's expression was very calm, and it was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. He said, last time in the Xuanji Taoist sect in Yinzhou, I lost a treasure to you. This time I want to win back 3. Lin Sun had a good impression of this person. He was open and above board, and even if they were enemies, he was an enemy worthy of respect. He thought for a moment and said, I can give you a chance, but if you lose again, don't bother me anymore. Zhuanqiu Heng's expression froze. This guy's tone was still as arrogant as before. All right. He took a deep breath and agreed with gritted teeth. Soon, Lin Sun saw some familiar figures. For example, Hua Xingli from the Demon's Court, Tang Su from the Frenzy Blade Battle Clan, and Ling Kezi from the Ancient Southern Temple. Hua Xingli's white hair was like snow, hanging down to his waist. His face was handsome and enchanting. Back then, on the ascension platform of the 3 forbidden areas of Kunlun ruins, he had also performed the ascension ceremony at the Saint Realm, causing an astonishing phenomenon. Tang Su from the Frenzy Blade Battle Clan was an extremely heroic and carefree woman. She was dressed in a black robe, and her body was whiter than sheep fat, glowing with a crystal-clear luster. Ling Kezi from the ancient southern temple was a charmingly naive little monk. As long as he saw Lin Sun, he would cower in fear. Apart from them, Lin Sun also saw Chun Yugo, who he had met once in the Immortal Peach secret realm of Kunlun ruins. It was said that he came from the Chunyu clan. There were also some familiar figures that he had seen in the Kunlun ruins, but Lin Sun did not know their names. However, there was no doubt that anyone who could participate in the Tao discussion was destined to be extraordinary. Those are the monstrous figures from the other worlds in the starry sky. There are so many of them. There are more than 500 of them. A burst of discussion attracted Lin Sun's attention. However, when he looked at the monstrous figures from the other worlds in the starry sky, he did not recognize a single one of them. This was normal. Wanted to know how vast the starry sky ancient path was. There were countless worlds in just the 9 major galaxies. It had been less than 10 years since Lin Sun entered the starry sky ancient path, so he was destined to not know too many things. However, he also knew that since these monstrous figures from the other worlds in the starry sky were qualified to participate in the Tao discussion, their strength was destined to be extraordinary. Ling Hongzhuang is here. Suddenly, someone cried out. The sounds of discussion in the surroundings stopped, and all of them shot their gazes towards the same direction in unison. In the distance, a wisp of fiery red light flowed, and then yin air transformed into a delicate and exquisite figure. She wore black clothes while her jet black and beautiful hair was combed into a braid that fluttered behind her, and it revealed a peerless appearance that was aloof and icy cold. As she arrived, many people's expressions became solemn. Ling Hongzhuang, the core successor of the Yellow Heaven Court, had firmly occupied the 3rd place on the King Sage list in less than 100 years, attracting the admiration of countless heroes. Huang Fu Xiaonong, I'm here. Why don't you show yourself? After Ling Hongzhuang appeared, she directly ignored the gazes of the people present and spoke indifferently. I've been here for a long time. It's just that you, Ling Hongzhuang, don't care about me. A burst of clear laughter rang out, and then a handsome man in a bright yellow battle robe appeared in the field. His figure was as straight as a spear, and his eyes were bright. Every move he made seemed to have a transcendent demeanor of overlooking the mountains and rivers and smiling at all living beings. With his appearance, there was another commotion in the field. Huang Fu Xiaonong, the core figure of the Heaven and Earth Taoist Court, the 2nd on the King Sage list. In the era before Mi Wuya rose, he was the most respected person on the King Sage list. For a moment, almost all eyes in the field were attracted by Ling Hongzhuang and Huang Fu Xiaonong. This was prestige. In contrast, Lin Sun's disguise as Jin Di was only famous within the Cloud Prefecture. Ling Hongzhuang and Huang Fu Xiaonong were both famous throughout the primordial world and were dazzling existences known by all. The only one who could overshadow them was perhaps Mi Wuya, who was ranked 1st on the King Sage list. Where's Brother Mi Wuya? Why don't I see him? Someone asked. Many gazes looked towards the Panwu Dao Court's camp, because Mi Wuya was the core successor of the Panwu Dao Court. My senior brother Mi is on his way here. A Panwu Dao Court powerhouse spoke indifferently with a faintly discernible pride. Senior brother Mi Wuya was not here, but no one could ignore his existence. This was because he was a legend, an overlord who had dominated the 1st place on the King Sage list for 600 years, and no one could shake him to this day. Suddenly, someone said, Mi Wuya is getting more and more arrogant. This sentence stunned the Panwu Dao Court powerhouses, and their expressions darkened. Someone actually dared to speak disrespectfully to Mi Wuya on such an occasion. Everyone present was also shocked. Soon, they saw the person who spoke. It was a man with a stalwart figure. His robes fluttered, and his hands were behind his back. When they looked at him, many people felt a piercing pain in their eyes. It was as if they were looking at a peerless divine sword that pierced through the clouds, dazzling the world. Many people were baffled. Who was this person? Only a small group of people narrowed their eyes. Yu Ruhua. He really came. When Lin Sun looked at this person, he could not help but feel surprised. What a tyrannical aura. It was not inferior to Ling Hongzhuang and Huang Fu Xiaono. It's not that he's getting more and more arrogant. It's just that we haven't appeared in the world for too long. A feminine voice rang out. Then, a black demon chi spread out like a mist, and a dignified figure walked out. His clothes were whiter than snow, and he was untainted by a speck of dust. Chapter 2029. Jibai, a unique name that was almost unknown, a peerless figure who was silent in the devil-suppressing bloodwell. Jibai guarded the darkness. His divinity surged into the light, and he walked in the darkness. When they saw Jibai, many people were stunned and confused. However, Ling Hongzhuang, Huang Fu Xiaonong, Zhuan Xuheng, and the others immediately recognized Jibai's identity. Following that, their pupils constricted at the same time. Whether it was Jibai or Yuruhua, they were monstrous figures who ignored the affairs of the world, but had extremely terrifying resources. Fame and wealth were like fleeting clouds to them, and the only obsession in their hearts was the great Tao. If I hadn't come to this Tao discussion grand meeting, I really wouldn't have known that there are so many powerful figures in this world. At this moment, Lin Sun could not help but sigh. In his perception, besides Ling Hongzhuang, Huang Fu Xiaonong, Jibai, Yuruhua, and the others, there were some other extremely powerful auras. Some were distributed among the monstrous figures of the other worlds in the starry sky. Some were distributed among the camps of the 6 Tao courts, the 10 war clans, and the other central plains. This made Lin Sun realize that in this unnoticed place, there were also ruthless figures that could not be underestimated. Even after waiting for a long time, Mi Wuya did not appear. But no one thought that Mi Wuya would not come. Dang! Dang! A melodious bell rang, as if coming from the 9 heavens, causing the atmosphere to become silent. This mountain was called Heaven's Yellow, and it was the main peak of the Heaven's Yellow Tao Court. The place where Lin Sun and the other powerhouses gathered was on a huge platform halfway up the mountain. At this moment, as the melodious bell rang, figures suddenly appeared on the main peak of Heaven's Yellow. Every figure seemed to be far away in the sky, giving people a supreme feeling that they could only look up to. But their auras were everywhere like gods sitting high up in the 9 heavens, overlooking the world. The one in the lead was the sect master of the Heaven's Yellow Tao Court, a great figure who could deter the heavens. Beside him were the primeval Tao Court's Jian Battle Emperor, the Chinquan Tao Court's Fire Spirit Emperor, the Pamu Tao Court's Cloud Rock Wind Emperor, and the Demon's Tao Court's Burning Sky Demon Emperor. The 5 martial emperors represented the might of the 5 major Tao courts. Other than the most mysterious Guiyuan court, all the important figures of the 6 major Tao courts were present. Behind the 5 martial emperors, there were martial emperors from the 10 war clans, primordial imperial clans, and other terrifying forces. Extreme Demon Sword Emperor Xia, Xinglia, was also among them. There were over 20 martial emperors, and they were like numerous supreme gods that had descended into the world. Such a magnificent scene caused Lin Sun and all the other experts that were participating in the Tao discussion to be shocked, and they gasped. Emperor Realm. They illuminated the heavens and intimidated the universe. They were like supreme sovereigns. Normally, it was impossible to see any traces of them. However, a group of great emperors suddenly appeared. Merely such a scene had practically never occurred in the primordial world throughout the ages. This clearly showed how much importance the terrifying powers throughout the universe attached to the Tao discussion. The scene was silent and solemn, and the heavens and the earth seemed to have stopped. The dark yellow Tao Court's sect master, Taishu Hong, spoke indifferently. There's no need for me to elaborate on the significance of the Tao discussion this time. All of you just have to remember that all of us martial emperors are present during the Tao discussion this time, and will naturally not allow anything that violates the rules to occur. His voice rumbled like the sonorous voice of the Grand Tao, and it resounded in the hearts of every single expert. There are a total of 1,849 experts participating in the Tao discussion grand meeting this time around. Amongst them, There are 480 experts from the other prefectures, 816 experts from the Central Earth Prefecture, and 553 experts from the other worlds in the starry sky. Next, all of you will enter the dark yellow secret realm together to undergo the selection. As he spoke, Tai Shu Hong flicked his sleeve. Bang! An enormous vortex door suddenly appeared in the sky above the enormous platform that Lin Sun and the others were on, and it flowed with a primordial and boundless aura. The dark yellow secret realm is behind the door, and it's the unknown place that Azurelight Divine Mountain has preserved the best until now. Before all of you enter the dark yellow secret realm, every single one of you will bring along a life talisman. After you enter, all of you can fight and kill at will and seize the life talismans of others. Remember, the more life talismans you seize, the higher your results in the selection will be. Those whose life talismans are seized don't have to worry about the risk of being killed, because you'll be teleported out of the dark yellow secret realm at the first possible moment before you're killed. Many people heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts when they heard this. So long as they didn't have to worry about death, then they didn't have to worry about anything in the selection this time. Right? All the participants of the Tao discussion this time are top-rate and dazzling figures in the world, so it's bound to be impossible to allow death to occur. Otherwise, the loss from a selection would be too great. Lin Sun seemed to be lost in thought. There's no time limit for the selection of the dark yellow secret realm this time, and the selection will end when only 108 people remain. Tai Shu Hong's voice continued resounding. 108 people. The hearts of Lin Sun and all the other experts trembled. Everyone had a premonition that an extremely crazy and bloody battle was bound to play out in the dark yellow secret realm. It was too crazy. After all, there were an entire 1,849 people participating in the Tao discussion this time. Yet only 108 people were able to win in the selection of the dark yellow secret realm. How cruel was this competition? Remember, you're not allowed to utilize Emperor artifacts, forbidden secret techniques, or any external forces in the dark yellow secret realm. Every single action of yours will be watched by me and all the other fellow Taoists in the Emperor realm. No matter who breaks the rules, kill them. Kill them all. The last 3 words caused the bodies of countless people to stiffen while their expressions changed. Who would dare to violate the rules while being watched by all the great emperors? At this moment, Lin Sun finally understood why Lu Dubu would take the initiative to propose to form an alliance with him on the way here. Obviously, Lu Dubu knew the inside story of the selection since a long time ago, so he'd started preparing long ago. In this way, it could be inferred that the 1,800-plus dazzling figures present here had probably formed countless alliances in secret. At this moment, Lin Sun felt pressured as well. He wasn't afraid of anyone, but if he was targeted and attacked by a group of people, then the situation was bound to become extremely serious. After the selection of the dark yellow secret realm, the 108 people that stand out will be qualified to enter the ancient immortal forbidden area. I believe all of you are very clear about what it means to enter the ancient immortal forbidden area. As soon as these words were spoken, there was another uproar in the surroundings. The ancient immortal forbidden area, one of the 8 great forbidden areas of the primordial world. It was rumored that a mysterious and unfathomable chaotic treasure was born in it, and whoever obtained it would be able to obtain a supreme treasure that wasn't inferior to the dark yellow tablet. Whoever obtained it would be able to possess the foundation to establish a Tao court. This was the reason why the Tao discussion this time had attracted the attention of all the people in the world. If it wasn't for this, it would be impossible for so many Emperor Realm figures to gather here in this Tao discussion. Now, all of you can take action. As soon as Tai Shu Hong's voice fell, a strange and obscure ripple suddenly appeared on the vortex door that appeared on the huge platform. The figures of Lin Sun, Lu Dubu, Wu Huang, and the other 1849 experts who were originally standing on the platform were all wrapped by a layer of obscure power and rushed into the vortex door. In just a few breaths, the platform was empty. All the experts who had participated in the Tao discussion conference had disappeared. In the end, no one noticed Weather Me Wuya, who had dominated the All Heavens King Sage, ranking for 800 years, had arrived or not. If he had, where was he? At the peak of the dark yellow secret realm, in front of an ancient hall made of divine iron. Taishu Hong smiled and said, "Fellow Taoists, the dark yellow secret realm is an unknown place that has been preserved the best. It is somewhat similar to the ancient immortal forbidden area. In the selection, there will be great benefits for the young people who emerge victorious." The Emperor Realm experts nodded. Buzz. Taishu Hong raised his hand and pointed. The outline of a huge world suddenly appeared in the distant void. It was like a scroll that slowly unfolded in the air. The great emperors turned to look at him. What was reflected in the scroll was the dark yellow secret realm. It was indeed a mysterious world that was filled with an ancient and primitive aura. From the outside world, one could clearly see the mountains and rivers of this world, as well as the figures of more than 1,000 experts who have been sent to participate in the Tao discussion. If nothing goes wrong, this selection will probably last for a long time. We could take this opportunity to sit down and discuss and exchange ideas. As Taishu Hong spoke, he had already given orders to set up tables and cushions on the mountain peak. He invited the Emperor Realm experts to take a seat one by one. Speaking of which, does Brother Taishu know what the chaos treasure that was born in the ancient immortal forbidden area is? Someone immediately asked. It's hard to say. Taishu Hong sighed softly. The ancient immortal forbidden area is an unknown and dangerous place that even Emperor Realm experts do not dare to enter. If that's the case, the treasure that was born in it is bound to be extraordinary. Why did I hear that the treasure that was born in the ancient immortal forbidden area is a mysterious gourd filled with chaos chi? Gourd? Not necessarily. I heard that it's a pitch-black vase. Isn't it said that it's an ancient vine that covers the sky? While the Emperor Realm experts were discussing, they were also paying attention to the movements in the dark yellow secret realm. No one was careless. Father, didn't you say that Brother Lin will participate in this? Where is he? Xia Xiaochong sat beside Xia Xinglia. Her clear, big eyes were staring at the picturesque light screen of the world, searching carefully. Wisps of obscure power covered her and Xia Xinglia's figures. This was Xia Xinglia's method, so that the other Emperor Realm experts wouldn't hear it. Xia Xinglia didn't answer the question. He smiled and said, "Xiaochong, you saw so many amazing people just now. Is there anyone that you like? Tell me. I'll give you some advice." Xia Xiaochong suddenly became anxious. Chapter 2030. Dad, don't you know that no matter how good those people are, I don't like them? Xia Xiaochong said angrily. She wished she could bite this playful father of hers. Xia Xinglia tried to hold back his laughter and said, "But I feel that Jin Di is very good. Listen to his name, unique and domineering." Seeing that Xia Xiaochong was so angry that she was about to cry, Xia Xinglia didn't dare to tease her anymore. He said hurriedly, Okay, I was just joking with you." Xia Xiaochong blinked her eyes pitifully and said, "Dad, you should tell me whether Brother Lin is in the Tao discussion conference or not, right?" "Yes," Xia Xinglia answered without hesitation. Xia Xiaochong's clear and dark eyes suddenly lit up, and her whole body glowed with a kind of amazing spirit. She said, "Where is he?" Xia Xinglia felt a wave of jealousy in his heart. Was this girl bewitched? Why was she always thinking about that brat? How could he, the dignified demon sword emperor, endure this? You will know when the Tao discussion conference is over. After a while, Xia Xiaochong said weakly. Even so, Xia Xiaochong was already very satisfied. She held her little face and stared at the light screen that projected the scene of the black-yellow mystic realm. Full of longing, she said, "When I see Big Brother Lin Sun, I must invite him to our great Tao in Nine Heavens Palace as a guest." Xia Xinglia was stunned and became more and more powerless. "Dad, don't you still have a bottle of divine light wine? I will take it to entertain Brother Lin." When hearing this, Xia Xinglia's mouth twitched fiercely. This wicked girl began to plan to rob her father's property for that boy. Really, a grown girl was useless. Xia Xinglia was full of sadness and worry. If this went on, what should he do in the future? Black-yellow secret realm. Lin felt dizzy. The scene in front of him changed, and then he appeared in a canyon. Swish! The broken blade suddenly swept out and wandered around Lin's body, looking around vigilantly. After confirming that there was no danger, he felt a lot more relaxed. He turned over his palm, and a jade talisman appeared. It was polished from a strange cyan animal bone and was branded with earthworm-like patterns of Tao. This was the life talisman. Once they lost it, they would be eliminated from the competition. Putting away the life talisman, Lin Sun didn't hurry to act. He was the only one near the canyon, so at least he was safe for the time being. The more life talismans I have, the more battles I have to experience. Even if I don't kill people, they will definitely kill me, Lin Sun pondered. If it was a one-on-one battle, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone. But there were bound to be a lot of people like Lu Dubu, Xie Yuhua, and the others who formed an alliance and acted together. Lin Sun had to be vigilant, especially people like Ling Hongzhuang and Huang Fu Xiaono. If they worked together, they would definitely be a huge threat. After a long time, Lin Sun made a decision. With a flick of his sleeve, he began to move around the canyon. The array flags that he carried on his body poured out like a torrent of water, inserting themselves into different areas of the canyon. After a short moment, a Dao marking restriction formation suddenly took form. Hi! As Lin Sun made a gesture, this obscure and inexplicable formation suddenly disappeared between heaven and earth. Even a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, let alone a human. Lin Sun clapped his hands and thought to himself, even if there is a danger, at least there is a place for me to hide. For Lin Sun, the most terrible thing in the Xianhuang's secret realm was not how strong the opponent was, but getting injured in the battle. Once injured, even powerful figures like Ling Hongzhuang and Huang Fu Xiaono would be targeted by countless people. After all, practically all those that were able to participate in the Dao discussion this time were top figures in the Peak Sinking realm. All of them were extraordinary figures that had attained perfection in their realms of cultivation, so the gap in combat strength between them wasn't great. If these people were to join hands and move together, it was easy to imagine how great the threat would be. Lin Sun set up the formation here to take precautions in advance, so as to avoid being hunted down and having nowhere to hide when encountering any dangerous situation. Next, I have to meet with Xian Yu as soon as possible. If I can form an alliance with Lu Dubu, it will be a safe way. No matter what, I should be careful in the next action. If I meet an opponent, I will kill him if I can. If I can't, I will escape immediately. While thinking, Lin Sun's figure flashed, and he flew into the distance. On the main peak of Xianhuang, Tai Shu Hong and other emperors were paying attention to the movements in the Xianhuang's secret realm. Before, they all thought that their descendants were extraordinary and there was nothing to worry about. But after careful observation, they found that all those who participated in this Tao discussion conference were extremely shrewd and ruthless. Each of them had many incredible means, and none of them was easy to deal with. For example, after entering the Xianhuang secret realm, someone immediately released a group of puppets to help explore the way. Someone's figure turned illusory, turning into a sky full of sand and dust, disappearing without a trace. Some of them controlled poisonous insects that were like a tidal wave. These young people are much stronger than us in the past. They're all very skillful. Some emperors sighed with a smile. On the road to the Great Way, the new generation naturally surpasses the old. Look, there is someone who turned into a river and integrated into the world of the Xianhuang secret realm. That kid is amazing. He just entered the Xianhuang secret realm and killed a person and obtained the first life talisman. Who is he? I don't know. He seems to be a little genius from another world. These emperors chatted and laughed in a relaxed manner. Some people noticed Lin Sun's method of setting up the formation and couldn't help but comment, "This kid is clever." He prepared a way out for himself. At this, Xia Xinglia, who was drinking, put down his cup and said, "This kid is not only clever. If nothing goes wrong, he will definitely be one of the 108 places to enter the ancient immortal forbidden zone." At this, many emperors were stunned. because they could see that Jin Dui was not a famous person from any ancient orthodoxy. He was only the first in the Tao discussion conference in Cloud State. But now, Ultimate Demon Sword Emperor seemed to treat such a young man differently. Don't tell me it's because he injured Kong Zhao in front of the mountain gate? Someone teased. This made Zhuiying Emperor of Wilderness Dao Court frown. He looked at Xia Xinglia and asked, "Do you really think so?" "Of course." Xia Xinglia said casually, "I'm not targeting your Wilderness Dao Court. I just want to say that Jin Dui is far more powerful than you think. If you don't believe me, just wait and see." He said this because he had considered that if Lin Sun's performance was too amazing, at least the Emperor's present would not be too surprised. Otherwise, it would definitely attract the attention of many old things. Maybe it would cause some trouble for Lin Sun. After all, no matter how heaven-defying the disguise method was, how could it be flawless if it was targeted by emperors? Zhuiying Emperor was a little unhappy. He felt that Xia Xinglia was targeting Kong Zhao and his Wilderness Dao Court. But because of the identity of Ultimate Demon Sword Emperor, he couldn't say anything more. It should be known that Xia Xinglia was temperamental. Once he was angry, no matter what the Tao discussion conference, no one could stop him. Only Xia Xiaochong looked suspicious. Why did Father pay so much attention to Jin Dui? Was he Brother Lin in disguise? Thinking of this, she also began to pay attention to Jin Dui. Noticing this, Xia Xinglia couldn't help but sigh in his heart. "Look, this is my daughter. How smart is she?" Not long after they left the canyon. Boom! A wave of battle came from afar. Lin Sun almost immediately activated his Bai Qi. His entire body turned transparent, and his aura was all covered. He quietly approached. In the blood-red wilderness in the distance, there was a great battle. On one side, there were 5 people, and on the other side, there were 2 people. They used their Tao skills and fought fiercely. For a moment, the world changed color, and divine light roared. These were the dazzling figures from the various provinces of the primordial world. Each of them was a top expert, and when they fought, their destructive power was amazing. However, the mysterious yellow secret realm was extremely mysterious. Between the mountains and rivers, there was an unknown and obscure power of order, making the destructive power of this fierce battle far less than imagined. In the outside world, the battle between Zhuiying Saint Kings could easily burn mountains and boil seas, and destroy magnificent mountains and rivers. But in the mysterious yellow secret realm, it was difficult to shake the mountains. This was the difference in the order of heaven and earth. Everyone stopped fighting. There are at least a dozen experts hiding in the nearby area. If you continue fighting, you will only benefit from it. In the fierce battle, a man in a black robe shouted, "What? More than a dozen?" The others were shocked. No one knew how big the mysterious yellow secret realm was. They thought that it was just a fierce battle, and no opponents would be attracted in a short period of time. Who would have thought that there would be people hiding in ambush? Whoosh, they spread out their divine senses to sense and investigate. But at this moment, the man in a black robe who spoke first suddenly laughed. "Soul extinguishing lamp, rise." In his hand, a purple octagonal palace lantern flew out. The wick swayed, and it suddenly released a dazzling divine rainbow of flame. The divine senses that the experts released were instantly bound by flame shackles and burned fiercely. Many people's vision darkened, and their divine souls were in pain. They let out muffled groans. "Oh no, this is a secret treasure that targets the divine soul. Damn it, this kid is cheating." Loud shouts rang out. These experts were all extremely dazzling existences, but at this moment, they all chose to escape without hesitation. "Do you think you can escape?" The man in a black robe laughed loudly. The purple octagonal palace lantern floated above his head. His figure flickered, and he suddenly slashed out with his saber. Whoosh, one person could not escape in time, and was enveloped by the blazing saber aura. Just as he was about to die, the void tumbled, and this person was brought out of the mysterious yellow secret realm. A green life talisman that originally belonged to this person also fell, and the man in a black robe grabbed it in his hand. He did not stop at all, and he laughed loudly as he attacked another expert. The purple octagonal palace lantern above his head spun, and it released a divine rainbow of flame that stuck firmly to the experts' bodies. It was like chains that bound their divine souls, and they could not be shaken off. Chapter 2031. In the following time, the black-robed man successively defeated 4 opponents with the mysterious power of a purple octagonal palace lantern. The most outrageous thing was that one of the strong people who acted with him was also suppressed by him. Before the 4 people were killed, they were taken out of the mysterious yellow secret realm by a force of void teleportation, leaving one life talisman after another. It's a pity that I couldn't keep all of them here. The black-robed man smacked his lips regretfully, and then his face changed slightly. As he spoke, he had already turned into a black shadow and rushed to the distance. He actually escaped directly. But halfway, the black-robed man was stopped. A tall figure appeared in front of him and stretched out a hand. "Give me your life talisman, and I can let you be eliminated with dignity." This person was naturally Lin's son. The black-robed man's expression was uncertain. He really didn't expect that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Taking a deep breath, he showed a kind smile and said, "I know you. Your name is Jean Duyi, from Yunzhou?" Boom! Before he finished speaking, Lin Sun suddenly raised his right hand and chopped down fiercely, as if he was lifting an ancient divine mountain and throwing it out. What a ruthless guy! The black-robed man's heart skipped a beat. He realized that he had met someone more ruthless than himself. Without hesitation, he attacked with all his strength. Crack! But in just a moment, he was slapped in the head, and his body was smashed into the depths of the earth like a wooden stake. He saw stars and almost fainted from the pain. The black-robed man said in horror, "Don't kill me. I'll give you all my life talismans." He was shocked. It should be known that he was the #1 person in Yuzhou, but now he couldn't even resist one move. If that was the case, then how terrifying was Jean Duyi? "Do you really think I'm here to talk nonsense with you?" Lin Sun stepped forward and flicked his finger. A wisp of sword chi swept out and pierced the black-robed man's eyebrows. "No!" the black-robed man shouted. The moment he was pierced by the sword chi, he was taken out of the mysterious yellow secret realm and eliminated. Only 5 cyan life talismans were left on the ground, and Lin Sun grabbed them in his hand. "Hurry, it's here. Remember, no matter who you encounter, kill without mercy." Before Lin Sun could leave, there was a sound of breaking the air. In the far distance, a group of figures rushed towards him with murderous intent. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes. There were more than 10 men and women, and they were all supreme figures from the 10 battle clans. There were Bloodshielan Battle Clan, Heaven Ghost Battle Clan, Tao Battle Clan. This scene reminded Lin Sun of the scene in Kunlun Ruins in Trance. At that time, he had also killed countless strong people. Among them were some of the most ruthless members of the 10 great battle clans, such as Tao Jinxing of the Bind Battle Race and Yin Xiu of the Heaven Ghost Battle Race. Whoosh! Lin Sun moved in the void and turned away. The mysterious Yellow Mystic Realm's Tao discussion selection had just begun, and it was not the time to fight to the death yet. Moreover, even if he used his full strength to kill these people, more experts would be attracted over, and he would become the target of all. At that time, the consequences would be dire. Escape! It's Jean Duyi from the Cloud State. He must have stolen a lot of life talismans. Go after him. Let's go. More than a dozen strong people were aggressive. Seeing Lin Sun escape, they directly chased after him without any intention of stopping. Obviously, Lin Sun's current identity was not enough to make them fear him at all. This was normal. If it were amazing figures like Ling Hongzhuang or Huangfu Xiaonong, they would have chosen to escape at the first moment, not to mention to chase after him. For a moment, the void was filled with dazzling escape lights, and they were incredibly fast, chasing after Lin Sun. Along the way, there were occasionally strong figures. When they saw this scene, they were so scared that they hurriedly fled, not daring to get involved at all. There were also some ruthless people who noticed this scene and secretly followed them. When the sandpiper and the clam fought, the fishermen benefited. The mantis stalked the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. No matter what kind of situation it was, It was destined to happen frequently in the mysterious yellow mystic realm. However, who would become the prey and who would laugh in the end depended on their ability and luck. Lin Sun was targeted by a group of people as soon as he cheated on them. He was speechless for a while and sighed with emotion at the cruelty and fierceness of this Dao discussion selection. Boom! To Lin Sun's surprise, when he passed through a forest of ancient trees, the forest seemed to come to life and rose from the ground. Countless trees and vines broke through the air and blocked his way. Clatter, Lin Sun's body was flowing with misty sword chi. As the sword chi intertwined, it whistled and slashed, smashing countless trees and vines, with chips and broken leaves into powder. Go to hell. At the same time, in the smoke and dust, a figure rushed out and stabbed at Lin Sun with a spear, like a white rainbow piercing through the sun. This was a thin man in a gray robe with deep eyes and abyss-like breath. When he attacked, his speed was so fast that it almost reached a shocking level. Obviously, he had been lurking here for a long time, waiting for Lin Sun's appearance. He took action without hesitation. Behind him, more than a dozen strong people were chasing him crazily. Lin Sun couldn't help frowning when he saw such an opponent in front of him. A cold, killing intent flashed through his black eyes. He didn't dodge, but jumped forward suddenly, grabbed the spear that was stabbing at him, and exerted strength in his palm and fingers. Bang! The spear was directly in Lin Sun's hand. With a fierce sweep, the man in a gray robe was smashed away. Whoosh! As Lin Sun raised his hand and threw, a spear rushed to the man in a gray robe with unparalleled sharpness. Oh no! The man in a gray robe was shocked. When he was about to dodge, the spear had already reached him, and the terrible and fatal breath covered his whole body. Clatter! A wave of void shifting wrapped the man in a gray robe and disappeared. Obviously, he was also eliminated at this critical moment. But before he left, his face was full of astonishment and unwillingness, and he still couldn't believe it. He was defeated in this way? That guy was just a first in Yinzhou, but why was his combat power so terrible? It's your bad luck to meet me. Lin Sun raised his hand, grabbed the life talisman left by the man in a gray robe, and rushed forward again. What? Xue Jiannan was eliminated in one blow? Xue Jiannan is a peerless figure from the first world of the major star area. Many people think highly of him. How could he be eliminated like this? Damn it, we underestimated Jin Di's combat power. More than a dozen overmatches who were chasing Lin Sun behind all changed their expressions and gasped. Their figures slowed down. Lin Sun didn't know Xue Jiannan, but they did. Xue Jiannan was also a famous figure among those peerless figures from other worlds in the starry sky. Who would have thought that he would be defeated in one blow? Do we still chase? Everyone looked at each other. We have attracted many people's attention all the way. Now that Jin Dui has shown such terrible power, I think it's better to stop. Someone muttered, well, let's leave it at that. There are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the Xianwang secret realm. Just like Jin Dui, he is only the first in a state, but he has such terrible combat power. Who would have believed it before? Alas, it's really difficult to stand out in the end. These experts discussed with each other and finally gave up the chase. How about it? Jin Dui did well, didn't he? In the outside world, Xia Xinglia laughed. The Emperor stage figures had seen everything that had happened before, especially when they saw Lin Sun defeat Xue Jiannan. A strange look flashed in the depths of Xia Xinglia's eyes. After so many years, this young man from the ancient desolation realm had become stronger. That was right. Back then, he was able to cause such a huge commotion in the Kunlun ruins. He was destined to be extraordinary. No matter how good his performance is, wasn't he still chased all the way? The prehistoric Dao Court's Juyin Battle Emperor said indifferently. A cold glint flashed in Xia Xinglia's eyes, but he smiled and said, speaking of pursuit, everyone, take a look at the Xianhuang mystic realm. That little girl called Ling Hongzhuang chose to act alone. In the end, she was chased by 3 groups of experts. Why? It's because she's too much of a threat. They're worried that she'll join forces with others. If that's the case, Who could be her match in this Xianhuang's secret realm? The black-yellow Dao Court's sect master, Taishu Hong, smiled bitterly. Ling Hongzhuang was the successor of the black-yellow Dao Court. Xia Xinglia's situation was indeed happening. It was not just Ling Hongzhuang. Huangfu Xiaonong, Zhu Fiyu, Yin Yuro, Ying Qianjue, and other peerless figures ranked in the top 10 of the All-Heaven King Sage board would definitely be targeted and attacked if they appeared alone. After all, they were too great a threat. That's why Jin Duyi's performance is extraordinary, Xia Xinglia said leisurely. Many of the Emperor stage figures present could finally see that the extreme demon Sword Emperor obviously favored Jin Duyi. They could not help but wonder if Jin Duyi had any relationship with the extreme demon Sword Emperor. This selection test is really unimaginably cruel. In a mountain range, after Lin Sun confirmed that no one was following him, he stopped at a mountain peak. He was a little worried about Jin Tian Xuanyue's safety. Everything that had happened just now had happened in an extremely short period of time. Lin Sun had no doubt that once he was entangled by those people, he would only attract more and more opponents. The most terrible thing was that even if he was on the way to escape, it was very likely that he would be attacked by someone suddenly. No, I must find Miss Xianyue as soon as possible. Otherwise, she, who is alone, will be besieged by many people like me. Lin Sun took a deep breath and began to move again. He operated his qi and moved forward quickly. Along the way, he also met many strong people, but almost all of them were in groups. There were at least 3 or 4 people, and at most more than 10 people. Lin Sun did not act rashly. He directly bypassed them. With his current strength, he could leave quietly without alerting the other party. He continued to move forward. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, when Lin Sun stood on a rock and checked the road ahead, his pupils suddenly shrank, and his figure suddenly rose into the air at an incredible speed. Boom! Chapter 2032. Whoosh! The sword Qi shot into the sky, and it was vast and dazzling. The sun, moon, and stars could be faintly seen within it, and it was like a river of stars was charging up into the sky. Lin Sun, who was high in the sky, narrowed his eyes. What a strong sword Qi! It wasn't exaggerated to say that even in the Tao discussion of Cloud State, Lin Sun hadn't seen any expert capable of executing such a shocking sword strike. There was no doubt that the one who made the move was a ruthless person. Lin Sun flicked his finger, and a dazzling Taishian sword Qi slammed down, colliding with the opponent's sword Qi. Boom! The void here was chaotic, and fragmented sword Qi splattered like rain. Amidst the slightly surprised voice, an extremely imposing figure appeared. His long hair draped over his shoulders, and his gaze was like a sword. His entire aura was like a celestial sword descending from the heavens, extremely swift and fierce. Looking at it from afar, it made one's eyes sting. Jin Duyi of the Cloud State? The man's eyes locked on Lin Sun in the void, and his eyes were sharp and frightening. Moonlike fire. Lin Sun could not help but frown as he recognized the identity of the man at once. His opponent was a freak who lived in seclusion and was extremely powerful. Before the Tao discussion began, he did not even take Mi Wuya, Ling Hongzhuang, Huangfu Xiaonong, and the others seriously. Just like Ji Bai, this person was a terrifying character who didn't seem to be famous, but was actually unfathomable. But Lin Sun didn't expect to meet him at this moment. Interesting. To be able to block the sword that I've been hiding for a long time, you can be considered a pretty good opponent. The corners of Yu Ruhua's mouth curled up into a cold arc. If you can take another strike from me, I will immediately move to the side and let you leave. As he spoke, Yu Ruhua grinned while a bright glow suddenly flashed in his eyes, and then he stretched out his hand and grabbed its space. Buzz! A meter-long strand of green sword Qi condensed into form. It was dazzling like the sun, and it caused the nearby space to collapse apart as if it was unable to endure the might of this sword. What I cultivate is a 3-foot-long sword. With this 3-foot-long sword, I will be unobstructed in the great Tao. Yu Ruhua waved his sleeve. Go! The green sword Qi soared into the sky like a rainbow, wanting to pierce through the sun and moon. At this moment, Lin Sun couldn't help but reveal a look of amazement. What a powerful sword Tao! It's perfect, vast, and condensed as one. It looks like a sword, but it actually contains the extremely exquisite power of the realm of Tao. Lin Sun didn't take it lightly and suddenly pointed out with his right fingertip. Whoosh! A wisp of a cold light floated up from the tip of his finger, and it was extremely dazzling, resplendent, and fierce to the extreme. In an instant, the heavens and the earth dimmed down, and it seemed as if only this wisp of light remained. Thorn of Sharpness. The Platinum Taoist body's innate magic skill could startle ghosts and deities with just one stab. Even a first-layer quasi-emperor would find it hard to dodge. Bang, bang, bang. There was a series of explosions as Uruhua's green sword, Qi, exploded inch by inch. It was like beautiful green glass shattering, causing a rain of light to scatter. In the blink of an eye, the 3-foot-long blade was completely turned into powder. Is that enough? Lin Sun didn't continue to attack. He withdrew the power from his fingertips and said calmly. Uruhua was startled and seemed very surprised. He didn't expect that the top one in Yunzhou could resist his real power. He said thoughtfully, "It seems that not all the experts in these provinces are easy to deal with. Jin Dui, you can leave now." Lin Sun glanced at him and left directly. He really didn't intend to fight with Uruhua, because even he wasn't sure that he could defeat Uruhua in a short time. But I remind you that the next time we meet, I will use my sword again. If you can still resist it, I won't attack you again in the mysterious yellow secret realm. Uruhua said loudly. Then we'll talk about it next time. Lin Sun didn't look back. Seeing Lin Sun's figure disappear in the distance, Uruhua withdrew his gaze and thought that Lin Sun's combat strength could at least rank in the top 10 of the Holy King list of all heavens. But he didn't know how many such fierce characters there were in the mysterious yellow secret realm. While thinking, his figure also disappeared in a flash. Uruhua is a descendant of the Heavenly Moon Battle Clan, one of the top 10 battle clans. 600 years ago, he already had the foundation to rank in the top 3 of the Holy King list of all heavens. In the outside world, Taishu Hong, the headmaster of the Black-Yellow Imperial Court, said slowly, "Originally, the Black-Yellow Imperial Court intended to rank him, but we were reminded by an old monster that he would rather fight for the first place than the second. If he is not qualified to be the first, his name should never be included in the Holy King list of all heavens." The Holy King list of all heavens was issued by the Black-Yellow Imperial Court. As soon as Taishu Hong spoke, the other emperors showed a strange expression. Uruhua, this young man was really amazing. Jin Dui can block this young man's sword. He is also not simple. Xia Xinglia said indifferently. Everyone was stunned and couldn't help laughing, but no one refuted, because they also saw the scene of Lin Sun blocking Uruhua's sword. It's just the beginning. The really powerful people will not easily fight to the death when they meet. Let's wait and see. The longer it takes, the more exciting the selection will be. Some great emperors murmured. That's right. Only when the sand is washed away by the waves will the gold be revealed. Only in the end will we see who is the most dazzling among the peerless saint kings. I'm looking forward to me Wu Ya's performance. Jibai is also not bad. Haha, I'm more interested in some of the oddities, such as Jin Di, the little guy from the Xian family, and some of the little monsters from other worlds in the universe. Yes, only by surprising and unexpected selections will people be interested. While the outside world was discussing, the atmosphere in the black-yellow mystery realm was intense, oppressive, and tense. In every area, there were fierce battles taking place at almost every moment. Most of them were sieges, but occasionally, there would be one-on-one battles. No matter who it was, they all used their trump cards and went all out. Cries of unwillingness, roars of anger, and roars of despair when they were eliminated took place in different parts of the black-yellow mystery realm. Those who could participate in this discussion were all top-notch figures in the all heavens. They were the best among the peerless saint kings. Everyone had their own talents and trump cards. When they fought with all their might, the battles that took place were often extremely tragic. Even some peerless figures who were originally favored by others were defeated in the siege and eliminated. There were also some seemingly inconspicuous and unknown figures who burst out with amazing power and launched counterattacks. But there were only a few who managed to counterattack. A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. Their reputation was well-deserved. For example, Huangfu Xiaonong, Ling Hongzhuang, Zhu Fiyu, Yin Yuro, and Tu Qianjue, who were ranked in the top 10 of the All-Heaven Saint King list, all had extremely eye-catching performances. Even if they were besieged alone, they could escape safely. Lin Sun's performance was not amazing, nor was it that nobody cared about him in the battle of so many outstanding figures. He had been moving forward cautiously, searching for the whereabouts of Golden Sky Mystic Moon. Along the way, he witnessed many bloody battles, but he did not participate in any of them. It was not that he did not want to snatch life talismans, but he knew very well that life talismans could be snatched later. But if Golden Sky Mystic Moon was eliminated, it was destined to be an irreparable regret. Moreover, this discussion had just begun. There were many participants, and it was common to meet them. But as time went on, after many eliminations, there would be fewer and fewer people. Those who could survive to the end were destined to be more and more terrifying. But at the same time, those who survived to the end probably had a large number of life talismans in their hands. This was also an opportunity for Lin Sun. At that time, if he eliminated an opponent, he could get more life talismans. Boom! 2 days later, Lin Sun, who was moving forward, suddenly heard an earth-shattering sound. There was a fight, and the scale was not small. In the past 2 days, he'd seen many similar incidents, so it wasn't strange to him. He'd originally intended to take a detour and avoid it, but he quickly stopped and frowned while a wisp of coldness flashed within his eyes that were like abysses. Without making a sound, he leaned over. In front of him was a barren field where a battle was breaking out. There were 5 people besieging 2 people. Among the 5 people, the leader was dressed in a black robe with wide sleeves. His whole body was steaming with gray mist, and his breath was domineering. It was Wu Huang. The 4 people beside him were all strange faces that Lin Sun had never seen before. They were 2 men and 2 women, and their breath was strange and obscure. They were extremely fierce. Lin Sun, who had seen the means of the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect, judged at a glance that the 4 people beside Wu Huang must also be from the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect. This made him confused. There were so many people in the Emperor realm in the outside world. Couldn't they see that Wu Huang and the others were from the Dark World? But if they could see it, why did they let people from the Dark World participate in this discussion? There must be a secret hidden within. When Lin Sun saw the 2 opponents who were fighting fiercely with Wu Huang and the others, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. These 2 people were Tung Yi-Chin and Mountain Gathering. Both of them were the top 10 in the discussion of Yinzhou, and they came to participate in the discussion with Lin Sun. According to Liu Dubu, Wu Huang, Tung Yi-Chin, and Mountain Gathering had already formed an alliance and decided to act together. But now, these 2 people were besieged by Wu Huang. Lin Sun did not need to think at all to know that Tung Yi-Chin and Mountain Gathering had been tricked by Wu Huang. If it was other cultivators, Lin Sun could not be bothered to pay attention to them. But Tung Yi-Chin and Mountain Gathering were from Yinzhou, just like him. The entire cultivation world of Yinzhou had high hopes for them. If they were tricked by Wu Huang and the others, it would be too infuriating. Boom! In the battlefield, Tung Yi-Chin and Mountain Gathering were besieged and suppressed to the point that they could not even lift their heads. They seemed to be extremely strained, and they were already covered in injuries. Wu Huang stood proudly outside the battlefield with his hands behind his back. The other 4 people attacked together madly. Each of them was extremely powerful, and they attacked together, pressuring Tung Yi-Chin and Mountain Gathering to the point that they could be defeated at any time. Don't resist stubbornly. This is the selection of the discussion. If I don't kill you, you will definitely be killed by others. Instead of that, why don't you give me your life talismans? Outside the battlefield, Wu Huang's expression was cold and indifferent. Chapter 2033. Both Tung Yichen and Gue Shanxing felt that they were really in a desperate situation. Not to mention Wu Huang. The four people who were besieging them were so powerful that they felt desperate. When they heard Wu Huang's cold words, they were so angry that their eyes turned red, and they were completely crazy. Damn it, let's fight with them. At this moment, Wu Huang, you are really shameless. A cold voice sounded between heaven and earth. Wu Huang and the four people who were besieging him all looked up at the same time. They saw a solitary and otherworldly figure teleporting over from the void. Tung Yichen and Gue Shanxing trembled in their hearts and said incredulously, "Brother Jean." When they were in a desperate situation and were about to be eliminated, someone suddenly fell from the sky. It was like a ray of light that broke through the darkness, giving them a glimmer of hope in their desperate and angry hearts. They felt unprecedented ecstasy and excitement. "Go on, I'll stop him." Wu Huang was stunned at first, but he immediately recovered his calmness and looked cold. His figure flashed, and the mist rose. Like a demon from hell, he rushed to Lin Sun. Swish! Four vertical eyes appeared in his pupils, and they shot out black, white, green, and violet divine lights that formed the strange and unfathomable four symbols life-slaying diagram. A chain that flowed with a bloody aura appeared in his palm, and it lashed out fiercely. In the past, as the messenger of the emperor, Wu Huang was arrogant and conceited. But in the Tao discussion of Yinzhou, he was defeated by Lin Sun and was trampled miserably, which was regarded as a great shame. Now, seeing Lin Sun intervening in his affairs, new and old hatred surged in his heart. As soon as he attacked, it was as if he was desperate with monstrous power. "Do you really think you can stop me?" Lin Sun sneered, and suddenly hundreds of millions of misty sword chi swept out from his body, blazing and resplendent. 10 direction, sword rain. But this time, it was performed by the fiercest and most chilling platinum Taoist body. The killing power was completely different from the past. Boom! The sky was covered by the sword rain, and the void was torn into countless cracks. Although Wu Huang's attack was terrible, it was smashed by countless sword chi in a flash. He came quickly, but he left even faster. He was struck by a dense wave of sword chi and sent flying. His clothes were torn to shreds, and bloody sword marks appeared on his body. Just one strike, and he was heavily injured. The four people who were about to continue attacking Tung Yichen and Gue Shanxing froze, and an expression of shock appeared on their faces. How could an emperor's envoy like Wu Huang be so weak? Even Tung Yichen and Gue Shanxing were speechless. They had personally witnessed the intense battle between Wu Huang and Lin Sun during the Yunzhou Dao discussion. At that time, even though Wu Huang was defeated, he didn't lose so quickly. He couldn't even block a single move. This was too inconceivable. How can you be so powerful? Wu Huang was shocked and furious. He couldn't believe that his opponent was already so terrifying in such a short period of time. He didn't know that Lin Sun hadn't exerted his full strength in the Dao discussion of Cloud State. Within half a year after the end of the Dao discussion of Cloud State, Lin Sun made a breakthrough in his cultivation and leaped into the late stage of Peerless Saint King. His Tao field was also almost perfected. His battle prowess was completely different from before. In order to save Tung Yichen and Gue Shanxing, Lin Sun didn't hold back at all. At the Dao discussion of Cloud State, you could use the Emperor Treasure and the strange secret treasure that targets the power of the Divine Soul. But in this mysterious yellow secret realm, you won't have such a chance anymore. As Lin Sun spoke, he rushed forward, and his killing intent was firmly locked on Wu Huang. "And I won't give you another chance." Boom! Endless sword rain swept out, and each Taishan sword chi was branded with the mysterious power of law. It condensed into a dense sword intent and covered Lin Sun. The scene could be described as covering the sky and the sun. Wu Huang's expression changed, and he turned to flee. In the past half a year, his strength had also made a breakthrough. He thought he had a chance to avenge himself, but the blow just now made him realize that Jin Duyi's power was far beyond his imagination. "As I said, I won't give you any chance this time." Amidst his indifferent voice, boundless sword, Chi suddenly flashed and transformed into a peerlessly ghastly sword formation that locked down this area, causing it to seem like a prison of the sword. This was a marvelous technique in the Taishan sword scripture, Sword's Cage. Open! Wu Huang roared up to the sky, and his whole body was steaming with a surging gray mist. He turned into a ferocious bird and flapped his wings to fly high. This was his real body, and it was also his strongest technique. Layers of gray light and shadow emerged between his wings, and it was like layers of demonic territory had descended into the world. It was strange and terrifying. However, under the suppression of the sword's cage, the layers of light and shadow were shattered like bubbles and collapsed with a bang. Under the slash of the sword Qi, Wu Huang's body was instantly covered with countless sword marks that were so deep that bones could be seen, and blood flowed out like a waterfall. No! Wu Huang's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, but along with a wave of void fluctuation, he was taken away and completely eliminated. Before he left, his eyes were full of deep-rooted hatred and unwillingness. At last, a pile of life charms fell from the place where he disappeared. There were as many as 13 pieces, and Lin Sun grabbed them in his hand. Then, Lin Sun looked at the 4 companions of Wu Huang. Go! These people had already realized that the situation was not good, especially when they saw Wu Huang's miserable condition. They were so frightened that they all chose to escape at the same time. Chop! With a swish, the broken sword swept out. At the same time, Lin Sun's figure flashed, and he chased after another person. Tung Yichen and Green Mountain Xing would not miss such a good opportunity, so they also rushed up at the same time. A moment later, the 4 overmatches from the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect were defeated and eliminated one after another. There were only 8 pieces of life charms left in the field, far less than the number of life charms owned by Wu Huang alone. It could also be seen that in the Divine Sunshine Ancient Sect, the status of these 4 people should be far lower than Wu Huang, the Emperor's messenger. Thank you for your help, Brother Jean. Tung Yichen and Green Mountain Xing stepped forward and thanked Lin Sun gratefully. They did not have much friendship with Lin Sun, but this time, it was Lin Sun who saved them. This surprised them and made them even more grateful. After all, they had allied with Wu Huang before, but Wu Huang had tricked them. How could they not be grateful for Lin Sun's life-saving grace? We are all from Cloud State. It's natural for us to help each other. Lin Sun smiled. As he was about to say something, he suddenly turned his head and looked into the distance. At the same time, a round of applause sounded. In the distance, a group of figures appeared out of thin air. The leader was a man in plain clothes. He had a handsome face and gentle eyes. He had long silver hair and a gentle and elegant temperament. Tu Qianjue, the core heir of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court, ranked 9th on the Holy King list. Behind him followed 7 or 8 men and women, all core heirs of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court. Each of them had a powerful aura that pierced through the sky like a group of gods. Tung Yichen and Gue Shanqing both changed their expressions and felt bitter in their mouths. He had just averted danger and defeated Wu Huang and the others, but a group of even more terrifying characters immediately jumped out. Wasn't this a little too unlucky? Only Lin Sun remained calm. In the past 2 days, he had seen many similar things. Some people seemed to have just defeated their opponents and got some life talismans with great difficulty. But before they had time to be happy, another opponent came out and took advantage of the situation. Things like the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, were common in this mysterious yellow secret realm. They happen all the time. But this time, he bumped into them himself. Who would have thought that the top one in Cloud State would have such powerful combat power? In my opinion, it was not an accident that Kong Zhao was injured by you outside the gate of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court that day. Tu Qianjue's voice was clear and bright, like a spring breeze. When they came, their chi was firmly locked on Lin Sun and others. It seemed that they hadn't made a move yet, but in fact a siege battle was about to break out. Do you think you were stronger than Kong Zhao by jumping out now? Lin Sun looked calm. No, I just have more people. However, Even if I can't kill you this time, I can definitely get some life talismans. Tu Qingyue smiled. Of course, if I really fight with my life, I have to weigh the price I have to pay. Lin Sun was a little surprised and said, So what are you going to do? Tu Qingyue thought for a moment and said seriously, Hand over the life talismans you just got, and we can turn hostility into friendship. You're so optimistic. Lin Sun laughed. Did this guy really think that he could defeat him with a group of strong practitioners of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court? Tu Qingyue said disapprovingly, It's an idea. If you don't think well, do you want to think badly? I also have a bold idea. I don't know if you want to hear it. Lin Sun smiled brightly. I'm all ears. Tu Qingyue said, You will definitely not be able to bear the result of this battle. Lin Sun said seriously. Tu Qingyue narrowed his eyes slightly and couldn't help feeling a little surprised. Didn't this guy really see that the situation was extremely unfavorable for him? But why was he still so confident? Let's go. While he was thinking, Lin Sun had already moved away with Tung Yichen and Hengshan Xing without hesitation. Tu Qingyue was stunned and said, I didn't expect that you, Jin Duyi, are also dishonest. But where can you escape to when I, Tu Qingyue, am staring at you? Whoosh! The next moment, they all chased after them. One of them waved his hand and took out a piece of animal skin with illusory luster, covering Tu Qingyue and others. When they moved in the void, their speed was incredibly fast. Animal skin of the void. It was a boundlessly miraculous treasure that was extremely rare. Every single piece of it could be said to be priceless. Although it wasn't an emperor artifact, its most powerful use was that it could ignore the restraints of the laws of the void when it was teleporting. Chapter 2034. Brother Jin, they're catching up with us. Tung Yichen's face changed dramatically as he sensed a strong spiritual awareness locking on him from behind. He felt like there was a thorn in his back. Brother Jin saved us this time. We can't let you suffer with us again. Brother Jin, you go first. We'll stop the enemies for you. Gue Shanqing gritted his teeth and said, Tu Qingyue alone was enough to make people feel desperate. Now, Tu Qingyue was not alone, but a group of core figures of Universe Taoism court. Moreover, they were catching up with him. How could they fight? Gue Shanqing turned around and was about to fight with his life, but Lin Sun grabbed him and dragged him back. I saved you, not to let you die again. Lin Sun frowned and said, If you really want to thank me, run with me. Run. Tung Yichen and Gue Shanqing felt sad when they heard Lin Sun's words. If it weren't for them, Brother Jin wouldn't have been treated like this. Well, no matter what, we'll fight for a chance for Brother Jin at all costs when it's a matter of life and death. Yes. Tung Yichen and Gue Shanqing looked determined. Seeing this, a faint smile appeared on Lin Sun's lips. He didn't save them in vain. It was enough to have such thoughts. Jin Duyi, you swore earlier that we wouldn't be able to bear the consequences if we were to fight. Why are you running now? Tu Qingyue's leisurely laughter came from far behind. I'm just bluffing. Senior brother, there's no need to talk to this person. When they're eliminated, they will know how big the gap is between us and them. The men and women of Universe Taoism court all showed disdain and coldness. Lin Sun ignored them and moved with all his strength. Along the way, he saw some strong figures, but when they saw the aggressive Tu Qingyue and others, they all changed their expressions and avoided them. That seems to be Jin Duyi. This guy is so unlucky. I thought Kong Zhao would be the first to attack him. I didn't expect that even Tu Qingyue would target him. Should we catch up with them? Stupid, Tu Qingyue and his team are the prey. How can we take advantage of them? All kinds of comments sounded on the way of escape. Almost all of them were pessimistic about Lin Sun and his companions. This made Tung Yichen and Lin Sun feel more and more guilty. They thought that if Lin Sun hadn't saved them, they wouldn't have encountered such a disaster. At this time, Tu Qingyue and the others were getting closer and closer. The situation was getting dangerous. Jin Duyi, I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the life talisman, and I promise I won't make things difficult for you. Tu Qingyue's voice had already become somewhat cold. No matter how good his temper was, He did not like opponents who were stubborn and did not know what was good for them. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to the people around him. Get ready. Once we make our move, we must crush them in one fell swoop with the might of thunderbolt. The other core successors of the Qinkuan Dao court nodded in unison, and killing intent flashed in their eyes. Opportunity? At this moment, Lin Sun, who was fleeing ahead, suddenly turned around with a playful look in his eyes. Do you really think I'm running away because of fear? Tu Qinjue frowned and waved his hand. They suddenly stopped, and the distance between them and Lin was less than 3 kilometers. Brother Jean, if you're not sure, why do you flee all the way? Tu Qinjue's eyes were deep. He had never underestimated Lin Sun. From Lin Sun injuring Kong Zhao outside the gate of the black-yellow Taoist court, to eliminating Wu Huang with absolute crushing power just now, Tu Qinjue did not dare to underestimate his strength at all. Therefore, whether at the beginning or now, Tu Qinjue had always been very restrained when dealing with Lin Sun. If it were another strong opponent, he would not talk nonsense and would have taken action at the first time. Lin Sun smiled and said, I'm just inviting you to enter the trap. I intend to catch a turtle in the trap. Catch a turtle in the trap. Tu Qinjue was stunned. He spread his spiritual awareness in all directions. This was a canyon. There were countless canyons like this in the black-yellow secret realm, and there was nothing special about it. But in an instant, Tu Qinjue seemed to realize something. His face changed slightly, and he shouted, Retreat! But it was a step too late. As Lin Sun waved his sleeve, the world suddenly changed with this canyon as the center. The day fell into the eternal night. The mountains and rivers turned into the color of blood, and countless tide-like Taoist patterns suddenly emerged, turning into infinite terrible formation power. Boom! In this formation, thunder and lightning roared, wind and clouds surged, there was endless divine light sweeping. There was a roar of Taoist sound, and sometimes there were roars of gods and demons crying blood. It was like a hellish purgatory. Damn it! We've been tricked! This bastard has planned this for a long time. We've all been tricked. Those core successors of the Heaven and Earth Taoist court were all shocked and angry. It's just a big formation. Can it trap us? Don't talk nonsense. Break the formation first, and then kill the despicable Jin Dui. Tu Qinjue took a deep breath and calmed down in an instant. His state of mind was terrifyingly strong. Boom! Without hesitation, they attacked fiercely, exerting all kinds of Taoist magic and treasures, and bombarding the formation with all their strength. Outside the formation, Tung Yichin and Gue Shanxing were both stunned by the reversal in front of them. Brother Jean, it turns out that you have a backup plan. Unexpectedly, Brother Jean, you are a Taoist tattooist. Only then did they realize why Lin Sun was so calm all the way, and they both felt a burst of excitement and joy. Lin Sun said with a smile, Watch me catch a turtle in a jar. He frequently made incantations with his palms, and the big formation that covered the heaven and earth rumbled and operated, reflecting an amazing scene. The terrible torrent of power evolved into sword chi, saber light, thunder, and flame, and started a massacre in the big formation. Tu Qinjue and others who were trapped in it suddenly felt the pressure doubled, and the place was covered by the terrible power of the formation in all directions. Kill! 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 Tu Qinjue and others all attacked with all their strength. It had to be said that the power of their group could be regarded as the top in the world. Each of them was at the peak of the Saint King realm. If it was an ordinary Taoist forbidden formation, it would be impossible to trap them. However, Lin's Taoist forbidden formation was not ordinary. With the rise of his cultivation over the years, the power of the Taoist forbidden formation he could set up was getting stronger and stronger. It was no exaggeration to say that from the moment he set up this formation, Lin Sun treated it as a way out for himself. How could its power be weak? Just for a moment. A scream of pain resounded in the big formation. A successor of the Universe Taoist court was caught off guard and was swept by a sword chi that suddenly swept out from under his feet, almost cutting him in half at the waist. On the verge of death, he was moved out of the mysterious yellow secret realm and eliminated. Junior brother yelled, "Damn it!" Others seemed to be stimulated, and their eyes turned red. Even Tu Chinjue's face became gloomy, and his eyes were as cold as ice, surging with a terrible tide of divine light. Before, he was handsome, gentle, and calm, with a kind of romantic and elegant demeanor. But now, both his expression and aura were extremely cold. He had been very careful all the way, but he still didn't expect that he would be led by the nose all the way. At the thought that such a scene would be clearly seen by those emperors outside, he felt an unspeakable sense of shame and indignation. No! Another cry, filled with unwillingness, rang out. Another descendant of the Heaven and Earth Tao court was eliminated. This person was in an even more miserable state. He was struck by a bolt of lightning until he was charred on the outside and tender on the inside. His flesh and blood had all turned into mush. Originally, he could still struggle a little, but who would have thought that after being struck by lightning, there would be a bolt of sword chi that pierced his throat? This scene made Tu Chinjue unable to control his anger. His voice was like thunder. "Jin Di, you are too despicable. When I break the formation, I will pay you back tenfold." Outside the big formation, Lin Sun, who was controlling the formation with all his strength, couldn't help laughing. "Despicable? What about when you bullied me and chased me all the way?" After a pause, he continued, "Tu Chinjue, if you want me to respect you, don't complain. Break the formation first and then say something harsh." Boom! As soon as he finished his words, Lin Sun exerted the power of the formation to the extreme. For a time, the big formation was filled with chilly wind and evil spirit, mixed with bursts of curses. The successors of the universe Taoist court were flustered. They were exasperated, shocked, and angry. However, no matter how they struggled and fought, it was useless. The power of the formation could trap a quasi-emperor to death. It was already extremely rare that they could last until now. "Damn it, I will definitely not let you off. Save me." In the following time, successors of the universe Taoist court were eliminated one after another. Even if Tu Chinjue tried his best to save them, he couldn't save them, because at this moment, he was also injured. Although it wasn't serious, it made him look extremely disheveled. This was the terror of the Tao pattern forbidden formation. Once trapped inside, it was difficult to break the formation with brute force unless one also had the same level of attainment in Tao patterns. Outside the big formation, Tung Yichin and Gue Shanxing were dumbfounded. A big formation trapped a group of core experts of the universe Taoist court, including Tu Chinjue. This was simply like an impossible thing. It was full of incredulity. This also made them look at Lin Sun differently. In the past, they didn't know that Lin Sun's attainment in the Tao of spiritual tattoos was so terrifying. At this moment, on the top of the main peak of the universe Taoist court, Tai Shu Hong, Xia Xinglia, and other Emperor Realm experts were also attracted by the scene of catching a turtle in a jar. One careless move, and the whole game is lost. If it was a head-on battle, Tu Chinjue might not be a match for Jin Dui, but he was tricked like this, an Emperor Realm expert side. Jin Dui's Tao pattern method is extremely mysterious. "Can you see the origin of this boy's master?" An important figure muttered. All the Emperor Realm experts were also puzzled. There was no lack of Tao pattern grandmasters with extraordinary attainment in the Tao of spiritual tattoos, but each of them had a master and could be identified. But only the Tao pattern method used by Jin Dui was something that the Emperor Realm experts couldn't see through. This was too strange. Chapter 2035. The martial emperors present were all from the 6 Tao courts, the 10 war clans, and other colossal forces. Each of them had lived for countless years and had seen all kinds of Taoist runes in the heavens. But now, they could not even recognize a young man's Tao. This, without a doubt, was shocking. If Array Emperor Deer was still alive, he would definitely recognize this inheritance. Xia Henglai suddenly spoke. Just these words alone caused the atmosphere and the surroundings to fall silent, and the expressions of many great figures became unnatural. Array Emperor Deer, a legendary figure who had yet to step into the Emperor realm, but was revered as an emperor because of his Tao. In the ancient times, during the Battle of the Emperors, Array Emperor Deer once laid down the lifeless killing array and trapped 13 emperors. In the end, 5 emperors were killed, and the other 8 emperors were heavily injured. At that time, Array Emperor Lu was only at the boundary emperor realm. Regrettably, perhaps due to the limitations of his cultivation, Array Emperor Deer's energy was exhausted at the last moment. He was then ambushed, and the lifeless killing array that was stained with the blood of an emperor was destroyed. After this battle, Array Emperor Deer's life and death were unknown. However, everyone saw him as a god and believed that his array skills were comparable to an emperor's. Therefore, he was revered as Array Emperor Deer. He was a legend who had yet to become an emperor, but was publicly recognized as having a path to the emperor realm on the path of Tao patterns, just like an uncrowned emperor. On the other hand, the lifeless slaughter formation that he'd set up was taken to be the 9th formation in the universe since ancient times until now. The grand formations that were ranked before the lifeless slaughter formation were all supreme formations that belonged to the emperor realm or even the ancestor realm. And the lifeless killing array that Array Emperor Lu, with his quasi-emperor cultivation, was able to make it into this ranking was already a feat that would shock the world. However, this piece of the past had been forgotten by most people through the boundless passage of time. However, it was like an unforgettable mark to the great figures of the emperor realm, and they were utterly unable to forget it, because many of the emperors that Array Emperor Deer fought back then were from the 6 Tao courts and the 10 battle clans. This was why when Xia Hanglai, the Demon Sword Emperor, mentioned this name, some of the emperor's expressions turned unnatural. It's just a battle between juniors. What's the point of mentioning Array Emperor Lu? The Fire Spirit Empress of the Qingquan Dao court spoke. Her body was surrounded by emperor realm laws that looked like fire fish, and her face was filled with coldness. At this moment, Tu Qinjue and the other successors of the universe Dao court were trapped by a grand formation, causing her to feel depressed. Everyone tactfully stopped talking about this matter. Everyone knew that Tu Qinjue was one of the core members of the Heaven and Earth Dao court. The Fire Spirit Empress thought highly of him, believing that he would definitely be able to stand out and participate in the competition for the ancient immortal forbidden area. But now, there was a possibility that Tu Qinjue would be eliminated. How could the Fire Spirit Empress be in a good mood? Only Xia Xinglia sneered and said, "This is called asking for it. You thought you could bully the few with numbers, but who would have thought that you would suffer such a huge setback? Jin Dui, on the other hand, is worthy of being the person that I have high hopes for. He vaguely has some of the elegance that I had in the past." His words made everyone look at each other in dismay. The Fire Spirit Empress' eyes flashed, and she sneered. "Xia Xinglia, what do you mean by that?" Xia Xinglia raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "What? You don't allow me to comment on the competition between the younger generation? If you're not convinced, why don't we have a spar?" The Fire Spirit Empress glared angrily. Tai Shu Hong quickly said, "You too, it's just a sparring session. There's no need to get angry." Xia Xinglia smiled and said, "It's indeed not worth it. But I'll say it again. If you're not convinced, I promise to accompany you to the end." His words were calm and composed, but they were extremely domineering. One should know that the Fire Spirit Empress was also a supreme being that shook the universe. Behind her stood the Heaven and Earth Dao court. In the primordial world, who dared to disrespect her? But Xia Xinglia dared. This was the extreme demon sword emperor. In all these years, whether it was the 6 Dao courts or the 10 war clans, he had never been afraid of anyone. In the end, the Fire Spirit Empress suppressed the anger in her heart and didn't continue to argue. She also knew Xia Xinglia's nature. He was an old thorn that had lived for countless years. Hey, this kid is ruthless enough. He actually killed his way into the formation. Suddenly, an Emperor Realm cultivator said in surprise. Everyone's attention was also attracted by him. In the mysterious yellow secret realm, inside the canyon formation. Quick! Although this formation is amazing, its power is on the verge of exhaustion. We only need a spurt of energy to destroy it. Tu Qianjue's spirit was lifted as he noticed the changes in the formation. At this time, 4 of the 8 people who followed him had been eliminated. Each of them was the core descendant of the Heaven and Earth Tao court. The loss was not small. When we get out, we must teach Jean Duyi a lesson. This damn thing must pay for this. The remaining people gnashed their teeth in hatred, each of them spitting out ruthless words. There's no need to wait until we get out. We can deal with it now. Suddenly, an indifferent voice sounded, and Lin Sun's figure suddenly appeared in the formation. Boom! Before the voice died away, he had already rushed out. The broken blade swept out and attacked a tall man in golden armor at incredible speed. No one had expected that at the critical moment of breaking the formation, Lin Sun would take the initiative to attack and attack so swiftly. Caught off guard, the man in golden armor had no chance to dodge and could only face it head-on. Get lost! He roared furiously, and the image of a dragon and tiger rose around him. The golden hammer in his hand rumbled as it smashed out fiercely. Peerless golden light was released along with it. The scene was like a golden sun smashing down, peerless and peerless. Clang! The broken blade and the giant hammer collided, causing a deafening sound and divine radiance to burst out. The golden hammer was actually split into 2 by the broken blade. The broken blade didn't lose momentum and slashed directly towards the man in golden armor. The peerless sharpness was so dazzling that the man in golden armor couldn't open his eyes, and great terror surged in his heart. He couldn't even resist one move. How could this guy be so powerful? When these thoughts had just appeared in his mind, the man in golden armor had been eliminated. The series of actions ended in the blink of an eye. Seeing what had happened to the man in golden armor caused the others to be unable to help him in time, and they all felt cold all over. Junior brother Tu Qianjue was completely angry. His long hair was flying and his eyes were red. This was the 5th one who had been eliminated, and Tu Qianjue was unable to resolve it. Go to hell. With a roar, Tu Qianjue exerted all his strength. A purple flying sword swept up and evolved into a sword field. In the sword field, the universe was vast, purple qi came for the east, and the sun was shining brightly. There were endless chanting sounds like a sacred kingdom. The field of Tao, forbidden sword field. Boom! However, before the blow touched Lin Sun, it was blocked by the power of the formation. Lin Sun smiled and pointed to the place where he was. Before this formation is broken, I'm the master. As he spoke, his figure flickered like an illusory shadow and suddenly appeared in front of a woman in yellow. He pointed his fingertip lightly. It was an understatement. The woman in yellow was directly moved out of the Xianwang's secret realm with a scream of horror. Clatter. When the woman in yellow was eliminated, countless Tai Xian sword chi flowed out of Lin Sun's body, crystal clear and resplendent. At this moment, Lin Sun was really like a master. Anyone who was targeted by him would end the battle in an instant. One by one, his opponents were defeated and eliminated. In less than 5 seconds, except for Tu Qianjue, all the others in the field were eliminated one after another. Jean Duyi, I swear to kill you. Tu Qianjue was about to go mad with anger. His hair was disheveled, and he was extremely crazy. This was a hunting operation, and he was full of confidence. But who would have thought that the appearance of a large formation changed everything? This made his heart bleed. Boom! With Tu Qianjue's bombardment, the Taoist forbidden formation, which had been unable to hold on, was completely destroyed at this moment. This made Lin Sun stunned, and then he immediately smiled. It doesn't matter if the formation is gone. The turtle that should be caught is doomed. In his words, he regarded Tu Qianjue as a turtle. This irritated Tu Qianjue so much that his hair stood on end. He roared, "Go to hell!" Whoosh! The forbidden sword domain expanded and turned into a vast world. The purple air was steaming, the sun was shining alone, and the mountains, rivers, and the universe were all filled with mighty sword chi. Lin Sun did not despise Tu Qianjue. Since Tu Qianjue could rank 9th on the Holy King list, his combat power was vividly reflected at this moment. Even if it was Wu Huang, in comparison, he was a lot inferior. Moreover, At this moment, Tu Qinjue was almost crazy. He seemed to be desperate, and the power he released made Lin Sun exclaim. Strong, incredibly strong. But it was not enough to threaten him. Lin Sun took a deep breath, and his body shone brilliantly. Hundreds of millions of misty sword chi gathered at his fingertips and turned into a condensed sword intent. At this moment, the world was dim, and only a touch of sword intent shone brightly. The sting of sharpness. Different from when he defeated Wu Huang, Lin Sun didn't hold back this time. It was the first time for him to display the talent of the platinum Taoist body. Tung Yichen and Gue Shanxing, who were standing outside, felt a stabbing pain in their eyes, hearts, and divine souls. All they could sense was the white sword chi, and they could not help but be shocked. What kind of power was this? Then, a roar of collision sounded, and the whole canyon trembled. The nearby void was torn like cloth, and countless cracks appeared. The terrifying turbulence of energy flooded the entire area. This was too terrifying. At this moment, all the Emperor Realm figures in the outside world could not help but be shocked. Among the top holy kings, this attack could be regarded as unprecedented and extremely rare. Xia Xinglia narrowed his eyes, and the wine cup that he had picked up paused. The fire spirit empress leaned forward, and the light in her eyes was steaming. She stared fixedly when the smoke and dust dispersed. The vicinity of the canyon was already a scene of devastation, as if it had been trampled by an ancient wild beast. The ground was cracked, the rocks were shattered, and the vegetation was crushed. It was a scene of devastation. In the field, two figures stood. One was bathed in blood, his hair was disheveled, and his face was pale and transparent. There was blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, and there was a shocking bloody hole on his right shoulder. One was dressed neatly, without a speck of dust, just like before. The former was Tu Qinjue. The latter, it was Lin Sun. Chapter 2036. Witnessing this scene, all the emperors showed a touch of surprise. This time, Tu Qinjue was not bound by the power of the formation, and he was still attacking desperately, but he was seriously injured in the head-on collision. In contrast, Jin Dui, who was unscathed, was particularly eye-catching. Some emperors glanced at the Fire Empress and found that the latter was in a bad mood, with a gloomy expression on her face. On the other hand, Xia Xinglia raised his glass again and drank it up happily. The joy of life should be revealed to the world. This, Tung Yichen and Gue Shanxing were also stunned. Tu Qinjue was ranked 9th on the Holy King list, but he was still no match for Jin Dui. It turns out that I underestimated you from the beginning. Who would have thought that there would be such a hidden guy like you in a place like Yinzhou? Tu Qinjue's expression was uncertain. He did suffer serious injury, but he was not nervous. This only proved that he still had a trump card. Lin Sun also saw this. He stepped forward and said calmly, I can see that you still have something to rely on. If you don't use it now, I'm afraid you won't have a chance. Tu Qinjue said expressionlessly, You can have a try. At this moment, he looked extremely calm. However, Lin Sun didn't care about this. In this black-yellow secret realm, there had long been a rule that one could not use emperor treasures or taboo external forces. In this way, there's almost no means that could make Lin Sun afraid of it. Whether Tu Qinjue really had a terrifying trump card or was bluffing, Lin Sun would not stop here. But just when Lin Sun was about to make a move, he suddenly stopped. At the same time, a sweet and melodious voice came from afar, like the sound of nature. Brother Jin, why are you so ruthless? A graceful and slender figure appeared, surrounded by mist and rain, like a dream. Her black hair was tied up in a bun, revealing a fresh and refined face. Soft Rain. She ranked 7th on the Holy King list, the core successor of the Black-Yellow Sanctum, and a world-famous gorgeous woman. There were countless stories about her. The selection of the Tao discussion is a competition for supremacy. How can it be called ruthlessness? Lin Sun stopped and looked indifferent. Tung Yichen and Gue Shanxing felt as if they were facing a great enemy, and their hair stood on end. They didn't expect that a world-renowned and peerless demon would appear at this critical moment. Brother Jean is right. However, since I arrived in time, what do you think the chances of winning are if we continue to fight? Soft Mist's figure fluttered as she landed on the stage. A refreshing fragrance wafted through the air. She was extraordinarily graceful and had an otherworldly beauty. Miss Euro, I'll have to trouble you this time. Tu Chinjua's expression was complicated. He had always been a proud and unyielding person. Unless he had no other choice, he would never hope for others to come and help him. Lin Sun, who had stopped, smiled and stepped forward again. You asked me what my chances of winning are. I thought about it. At the very least, I have some confidence in dealing with the two of you. His words were filled with disdain. Tu Chinjue and Yin Euro stared blankly, as if they couldn't believe it. Looks like Brother Jean is not willing to give up just like this. You want to give it your all. Soft Mist's eyes were ethereal and her voice was clear. There was no emotion in her voice, but the rippling power of the great way permeated her body. He doesn't care about us at all. Tu Chinjua's expression was ugly. But at this moment, Lin Sun stopped again and turned his head to look at Tung Yichin and Gue Shanxing. He shouted, "Watch out!" The two reacted quickly. Before Lin Sun's voice died away, they instinctively dodged. However, it was too late. Boom! A black shadow of a sword fell from the sky like a black curtain. The black sword chi shone with a sharp and dazzling light as it whistled down. The sword chi rumbled like the water of the Milky Way. It crushed the void and drowned Tung Yichin and Gue Shan Xing. No. Brother Jean, run. In the blink of an eye, the two were eliminated. Before being eliminated, Gue Shan Xing was worried about Lin Sun's safety and shouted anxiously. Lin Sun's expression suddenly became cold when he saw this scene, but didn't have time to rescue Gue Shan Xing. His black eyes were as deep as the abyss, and boiling, killing intent surged. The companions he saved were now attacked and eliminated under his eyes. This made Lin Sun feel unspeakable shame and anger. When the black shadow of the sword dissipated, a man with a long sword on his back and a flagon in his open clothes appeared in the field. He looked rough and wild. Zhu Feiyu. He ranked 8th on the Holy King list and the core descendant of the Demon Court. Brother Jean, you look angry. Actually, you don't have to be angry. You just said that this is just a selection of Tao. It's just a competition. Zhu Feiyu smiled wantonly. What's more, they are just eliminated. Their lives are not in danger. Brother Jean, don't be angry. His words were full of ridicule and ridicule. As he spoke, he exchanged a look with Tu Chinjue and Yin Euro. The next moment, they shrouded Lin Sun with their chi from different directions. The atmosphere instantly became extremely solemn. There were many variables in this chase. First, Lin Sun defeated Wu Huang and the others. Then, Tu Chinjue and the others appeared and chased after Lin Sun. But in the end, Tu Chinjue and the others were trapped and suffered heavy losses. Who would have thought that everything would be settled? Who would have thought that Yin Euro and Zhu Feiyu would appear one after another and change the situation again? At this moment, Lin Sun was targeted by 3 ruthless characters ranked in the top 10 of the Holy King list, and the situation was reversed. This scene also attracted the attention of the Emperor Realm experts in the outside world. Wow, I didn't expect the young people to be so cunning. The 3 little guys from the 3 major Tao courts have already secretly formed an alliance. When did the relationship between the descendants of the 3 major Tao courts become so good? Xia Xinglia's tone was full of sarcasm. In the Xianwang mystery realm, it was very common for people to work together. However, it was very rare for people like Tu Chinjue, Yin Euro, and Zhu Feiyu, who were all peerless geniuses in the top 10 of the All-Heaven King's Saint Board, to form an alliance. Tai Shu Hong, the headmaster of the Black-Yellow Secret Realm, smiled bitterly. How can we meddle in the affairs of the disciples? Brother Xia, you think too much. Burning Sky, Demon Emperor of the Demon Court, said coldly. Xia Xinglia, the rules do not say that we are not allowed to act together. His figure was thin, his eye sockets sunken, and his eyes were as frightening as an eagle's. Wearing a black robe, he sat there casually like the 9th Heaven Demon Lord. Xia Xinglia, Who is Jin Dui to you? Why do you protect him? The Fire Spirit Empress could not help but ask. I don't like him. Can't I? Xia Xingli asked. Seeing that they were about to argue again, Tai Shu Hong quickly mediated. Everyone, as long as there is no violation of the rules, we can let it go. We should not hurt the harmony because of this. Tai Shu Hong felt a headache coming on. Emperors possessed the power to reverse the universe. Each of them had the power to illuminate the heavens. None of them was easy to get along with. At the same time, in the Black-Yellow Secret Realm, perceiving the hostility of Tu Qinyu, Yin Yuro, and Zhu Feiyu, Lin Sun said after a moment of silence, "We'll settle this account later." After that, he turned around and left. If we let you go this time, we will lose face. Zhu Feiyu couldn't help laughing. Jin Dui thought too highly of himself. How could he leave like this after leaving a harsh remark? No way. As he spoke, his figure flashed and disappeared out of thin air. The next moment, countless heavy black sword chi, like the night curtain, rumbled and crushed the void, pressing down on Lin Sun. The dark sword chi, as heavy as a holy mountain, flowed with obscure and terrible Taoist light. It gathered together in a dense manner, as if it was going to destroy the mountains and rivers and destroy the universe. Without looking at it, Lin Sun raised his fist and punched. The fist force was like a furnace, like an abyss, but not an abyss. With incredible power, it engulfed all the black sword chi in the sky. Boom! The nearby void shook and became chaotic. Zhu Feiyu staggered out of the void, and his face changed slightly. Sure enough, this fellow wasn't just an ordinary kind of scary. Condense. A hazy and dreamy misty rain appeared in front of Lin Sun and condensed into an ink painting of misty rain. Then it suddenly folded up. Misty rain of lands. This was Yin Yuro's Tao field. It seemed poetic and picturesque, but in fact, it was all-encompassing and full of unimaginable killing power. Dong! Without looking at it, Lin Sun punched again. The misty rain painting had just condensed into shape when it burst into pieces. Yin Yuro's starry eyes widened in surprise. She just wanted to stop Lin Sun and make him stay. Who would have thought that her means didn't work at all? When she and Zhu Feiyu were about to attack again, Lin Sun's figure had already disappeared without a trace. It was too late to chase after him. Tu Qianjue, who was seriously injured, didn't make a move. In his current state, it was too late for him to do anything. When he witnessed this scene, his face became extremely gloomy. The three of them had joined forces, but still failed to make him stay. If it were one-on-one, I'm afraid we wouldn't be his match. This guy isn't much inferior to those hidden geniuses like Yuruhua and Jibai. Zhu Feiyu's expression was solemn. Originally, we secretly formed an alliance to fight against people like Yuruhua, Jibai, and Miwuya. But now, it seems that Jin Dui will be added to the list. Yin Yuro's expression was also unusually solemn. Jin Dui, he was just a character from Yinzhou, but he possessed unimaginable fighting power. This was enough to make anyone take him seriously. This guy already bears a grudge against us. He definitely won't let it go in the coming days. Tu Qianjue took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the hatred in his heart. Then he said in a gloomy voice, "What do the two of you think we should do next? If you don't kill a snake, you'll be harmed instead. We must fight for the life talisman, but we must also eliminate the threat that should be eliminated. Otherwise, who knows how many more problems will arise." Zhu Feiyu's eyes darkened. "In my opinion, we should gather all the forces we can and kick this guy out of the game." Chapter 2037. All right, I'll gather the forces of heaven and earth Dao court. Tu Qianjue agreed without hesitation. There were more than 30 heirs of heaven and earth Dao court participating in the Dao discussion. The 8 people eliminated by Lin Sun were only a portion of them. "What about you, Miss Yuro?" Zhu Feiyu looked at Yin Yuro. "Our cooperation is my personal decision. I don't want to trouble the other disciples of the sect because of our matters," Yin Yuro said softly. Yin Yu said softly, "However, if we really go to deal with Jin Dui, I will definitely participate." Zhu Feiyu was startled, but he smiled. "It's all right. Brother 2, and I can gather the forces together. The three of them immediately took action. The martial emperors in the outside world were shocked when they saw Lin Sun break through Zhu Feiyu, Tu Qianjue, and Yin Yuro's encirclement. Previously, they felt that Lin Sun was doomed to die if the three peerless monsters in the top 10 of the All Heavens King Sage ranking joined forces. Who would have thought that Lin Sun's battle prowess would exceed their expectations once again? This lad is unexpectedly powerful. If nothing goes wrong, he can already be compared to Ling Hongzhuang, Huangfu Xiaonong, and Mi Wuya. Heaven Yellow Dao Court's sect master, Tai Shu Hong, exclaimed in surprise. These words came from the Dao Court's sect master, whose name shook the heavens, and it was already an extremely extraordinary evaluation. Brother Tai Shu, how can a mediocre person compare to someone I favor? Xia Xinglia smiled and drank a cup of wine. The Fire Spirit Empress of the Universe Dao Court and the Burning Sky Demon Emperor of the Devil Dao Court revealed gloomy expressions. They were actually rather shocked in their hearts because they never imagined that Lin Sun would actually be able to leave so easily under their encirclement. Now that this lad's strength has been exposed, I'm afraid he will become an enemy in the future, Demon Emperor Burning Sky said coldly. Moreover, this lad doesn't seem to have many allies in the heaven and earth mystery realm. It will be very difficult for him to walk to the end alone. Xia Xinglia sneered. I can support the Great Path 9 Heavens Palace alone. Why can't this lad fight to the end alone? All of you, after being prejudiced, your words have become laughable. At this point, he was too lazy to argue. Facts were often more convincing than arguments. He was looking forward to Lin's next performance. All right. Suddenly, Fire Spirit Empress's eyes lit up, and she pointed at a place in the Xianhuang mystery realm. Everyone, look. He defeated 9 top figures of the same generation in one battle. What do you think of Huangfu Xiaonong's performance? It was a gorge that had just experienced a horrifying battle. In the end, only Huangfu Xiaonong stood there alone, and he seemed heroic and mighty like a god. The monarchs nodded in agreement. Huangfu Xiaonong's strength had long since been indisputable. Strange, Mi Wuya hasn't shown himself since the beginning. Now that he's been in the Heaven-Earth mystery realm for so many days, he's actually been hiding in an underground cave. What's he trying to do? Someone else frowned and said, Mi Wuya. He was the core successor of the Panwu Dao Court, ranked first on the All Heavens King Sage list, a legendary figure who shone in the starry sky. However, he seemed to keep an extremely low profile during the Dao discussion this time, especially after he entered the Sky-Earth secret realm. He'd been constantly hiding himself, and he didn't have any intention to make a move at all. This naturally made people feel strange. In my opinion, this boy is just like a dragon hiding in the abyss, hiding his strength and guarding his weakness. I'm afraid fighting for the life talisman is not attractive to him at all. Someone said thoughtfully, I heard that this boy has been suppressing his realm for 300 years, and already has the terrifying potential to step into the peak of the Quasi-Emperor realm. Yes, he's regarded as really invincible in the Saint King realm. In the past hundreds of years, he hasn't fought against anyone of the same generation. Oh, does he disdain to compete with his peers? The monarchs discussed. Mi Wuya was undoubtedly a legendary figure that no one could ignore, even if he was only at the peak of the Saint King realm. But with the foundation and reputation he had now, his future was bound to be limitless. In the Xianhuang mystery realm, after breaking through the encirclement and leaving, Lin Sun felt no joy in his heart. Previously, Tang Yichen and returning to the mountains were sneak attacked and eliminated under his nose, which made him feel an inexplicable anger in his heart. Let's settle this score slowly. Lin Sun repeated this sentence in his heart. Previously, if he went all out, he was also confident that he could suppress Tu Qianjue, Zhu Feiyu, and Yin Yuro, but the situation at that time did not allow him to do so. The reason was very simple. The movement of activating the formation to trap Tu Qianjue and the others had already attracted the attention of many people. At that time, when the Sandpiper and the Clam fought, the fisherman would reap the benefits. As he was thinking, a cold light flashed in Lin Sun's eyes. In a nearby area, he sensed several strong people secretly chasing after him. 2 men and a woman. From their clothes, Lin Sun recognized that they were strong people from the Heavenly Ghost Fighting Clan, one of the top 10 fighting clans. Looting a burning house, Lin Sun stopped and pointed out their whereabouts. Taoism, fellow Jean, it's too dangerous to act alone. Why don't we work together? The 2 men and the woman looked at each other and walked out of the dark. The black-robed man who led them said in a gentle voice. Obviously, they recognized Lin Sun. Lin Sun said, "Sorry, I'm not in the mood." The black-robed man smiled and said, "Brother Jean, you really don't want to think about it?" There was a faint threat in his voice. Lin Sun was stunned. He glanced at the 3 people and roughly judged that they obviously didn't know about the battle between him and Tu Qinjue and the others. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to talk to him like this at all. Shaking his head, Lin Sun ignored them and flashed forward. He didn't want to waste any more time. He had to find Jin Tian Xianyue as soon as possible and then start to prepare for revenge for Tung Yichen and returning to the mountains. It's just a small number 1 in Yinzhou. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Suddenly, a young man in a silver robe snorted coldly. He took a step forward and slashed out with his saber. Whoosh! The saber chi was dazzling like a sharp bolt of lightning thousands of meters long. It emitted a fierce and dense aura of destruction and ancient totem mysteries. The black-robed man's eyelids twitched. He was about to stop Lin Sun, but it was too late. Lin Sun didn't look back, but a handful of dazzling sword chi burst out from his back. Puff! The lightning-like saber chi burst into pieces, and a silver-robed man was cut by the sword chi. His skin and flesh were torn, and blood splashed. Before he could scream, he was moved out of the mysterious yellow secret realm. Lin Sun's figure had already disappeared. From beginning to end, he didn't look back, and he didn't even collect the fallen life talisman. The black-robed man and the woman beside him gasped. Their scalps were numb, and their hearts were shocked. Only then did they realize that they had kicked a big iron plate. Not long after, Lin Sun frowned again. In his spiritual sense, he once again sensed an aura rapidly moving over from the road in front of him. But the next moment, Lin Sun was stunned. In the void far away, a graceful figure flashed out. She was as beautiful as a fairy and graceful as a god. However, her snow-white clothes were stained with blood, scarlet, and dazzling. Her pretty face was slightly pale, and her aura faintly showed signs of disorder. Xianyue. Lin Sun's pupils dilated. How could she become like this? Child. When seeing the familiar figure of Lin Sun, Jin Tian Xuanyue's clear eyes were filled with surprise. She breathed a long sigh of relief and said, "Fortunately, child is blessed by God. Nothing happened to you. Don't worry about me. How did you get hurt?" Lin Sun had already come to greet her. As he looked up and down, his heart trembled. At this moment, Jin Tian Xuanyue's body was covered with sword wounds, saber wounds, fist marks, and claw marks. In some places, her skin and flesh were badly mutilated, and her bones could be seen. That scene of being riddled with scars was simply a ghastly sight. Lin Sun's distressed and caring eyes made Jin Tian Xianyue feel warm in her heart. After calming herself down, she said, "I heard that young master was being chased by Tu Qinjue's group from the Heaven and Earth Dao Court, so I immediately rushed over. Who would have thought that I would be ambushed halfway and be surrounded on the road?" Speaking of this, a smile appeared on her pale and beautiful face. She looked up at Lin Sun and said, "Fortunately, they failed to stop me. Now I see that you are safe and sound. I can be completely relieved." Her voice was soft and cheerful, and her joy was beyond words. For the first time in his life, Lin Sun looked at Jin Tian Xianyue in front of him so seriously, and his heart trembled. She was so seriously injured, but she only thought of coming to save him. When she saw that she was fine, she was so happy and delighted that she completely didn't realize how serious her injuries were. For a moment, Lin Sun felt a kind of unspeakable shame in his heart. Back when they were on the boat, Jean Tian Xianyue had been by his side. She was originally arrogant and conceited, and she was treated like a pearl in the palm of the Jintian clan. From that day onwards, she had taken on the role of a Dao attendant without any complaints or regrets along the way. She was always well-behaved and docile in front of him. She made tea for him, took care of his food and clothing, shared his worries and difficulties. And for him, she was the descendant of the White Emperor of ancient times. She was the beloved daughter of Fufeng, Sword Emperor. She had done so much for him, but he didn't seem to care much about it. Lin Sun was stunned, and his heart was in turmoil. Scenes of the past intertwined in his mind, making him feel suffocated when he saw Jean Tian Xuanyue's joyful smile. "Child, what's wrong with you?" Jean Tian Xianyue couldn't help asking. She felt that Lin Sun was a little abnormal. There were too many emotional fluctuations in his eyes that had never been seen before. Nothing. Taking a deep breath, Lin Sun forced himself to restrain the tumbling emotions in his heart. He put his hands on Jean Tian Xuanyue's shoulders and said, "Xianyue, from now on, you can take care of yourself. I will shelter you from wind and rain." Chapter 2038. Shelter from wind and rain. Just these 4 words caused Jean Tian Xianyue to be stunned. Tears uncontrollably flowed out of her clear, star-like eyes. In the past, she was a peerless talent of the younger generation of the Jintian clan, a family of the far ancient imperial clan, and was famous in a region. But since she followed Lin Sun, she seemed to give up everything and started from scratch, completely restraining her pride and conceit. Since she entered the Hongmeng world, she had been with Lin Sun all the way, experiencing all kinds of hardships together. But now, as Lin Sun said these words, Jean Tian Xianyue suddenly felt that what she had done and thought since she followed Lin Sun, everything was worth it. "Why are you crying?" Lin Sun was stunned and nervous. He thought Jean Tian Xianyue was hiding some grievances in her heart. I'm happy." Jean Tian Xianyue took a deep breath and held back her tears. A strange expression appeared on her face as she said, "Young master, I will engrave the words shelter from the wind and rain in my heart for the rest of my life. I will never forget it." Lin Sun smiled. "I mean what I say. Let's go. I'll take you to vent your anger first." Jean Tian Xianyue wanted to remind Lin Sun not to be so rash, but when the words came to her mouth, she blurted out, "Child, I'll listen to you." As soon as the words came out, she felt ashamed in her heart, as if she was bullied and found someone to rely on. "Let's go," Lin Sun said. Because of what happened to Tung Yichin and Green Mountain Xing, he had nowhere to vent his anger. Now, even Jean Tian Xianyue was bullied like this, which made Lin Sun unable to bear it anymore. Whoosh! Lin Sun waved his sleeves, and a cloud emerged, carrying him and Jean Tian Xianyue away. On the way, Lin Sun also learned that the group of people who besieged Jean Tian Xianyue came from primitive Taoist court, led by Xian Rujia, ranked 17th on the Holy King list. Except for Xian Rujia, the others were also the core figures of primitive Taoist court. Otherwise, Jean Tian Xianyue wouldn't have suffered such a serious injury. Have they caught up with us? To Lin Sun's surprise, not long after they set off, a group of people appeared on the road far away. Jean Tian Xianyue recognized the leader at a glance. "Young master, please look, that guy is Xian Rujia?" Jean Tian Xuanyue's eyes flashed with coldness. In the previous battle, she had played it down, but in reality, it was extremely dangerous. If she had not risked her life to fight, she would have been eliminated long ago. Lin Sun looked up and saw that the leader was a thin man in a blue Taoist robe, with a jade-like face and a pine-patterned ancient sword under his feet. Flowers of the great Tao appeared above him, and it was a shocking scene. A group of men and women followed closely behind him, and it made him seem even more extraordinary and divine. "Yo, the Jean Tian clan's young miss has found a helper." When they saw Lin Sun and Jean Tian Xianyue, Xian Rujia and others were stunned at first, and then they all revealed a mocking smile. TSK, I was wondering which hero it was. So it's just the number one person in Cloud State, Jean Dui. Miss Xianyu, you're not trying to find a doctor in a desperate situation, are you? Someone sneered with a playful expression. It's still the same words. Any prey that is targeted by our primordial Tao court has no chance of escaping. Not to mention, we have to avenge senior brother Kongyu. Xian Rujia, the leader, said coldly. Lin Sun understood that the reason why these descendants of primordial Tao court attacked Jintian Xianyue was because of Kongyu, who died in his hands. Xianyue, watch carefully. If one of them can escape today, I will be sorry for your company all the way. Lin Sun's black eyes were deep, and the killing intent surged in his heart like molten lava, which was almost uncontrollable. Xian Rujia and others all showed a look of astonishment, and then they burst into laughter. Lin Sun was just the number one person in Cloud State, but his tone was so arrogant. This was too strange. How terrifying was Lin Sun's current combat power? Even Jintian Xianyue was not sure. She only knew that these laughing guys were doomed to be unlucky next. Jean Dui, I advise you to change your name quickly. People like you dare to take such a name. Aren't you afraid of dying? A man in a golden robe laughed and teased. Really, in the indifferent and cold voice. Lin Sun moved and raised his hand to point gently in a void. On the head of the man in a golden robe, a vast finger power condensed, surging with obscure and unpredictable terrible light. The finger power pressed gently. Boom! That expanse of space collapsed and exploded. The golden-robed man roared and used all his strength to resist, but his figure was suppressed to the point of sinking inch by inch into the ground. The veins on his body bulged, and his face was suffocated to the point of almost bleeding. In the end, he couldn't resist it. Like a nail, he was smashed into the ground, and the earth shook. With a fluctuation of the void, the man in a golden robe was eliminated in just a moment. The smile on the faces of Xian Rujia and others froze, and their bodies were cold. They were all caught off guard by the previous scene. They didn't expect that Lin Sun would act so decisively. The first one, Lin Sun began to count. His expression was neither sad nor happy, but there was monstrous anger and killing intent in his black eyes. He needed to vent. Let's go together, Xian Rujia shouted. Above his head, flowers condensed by the law of Great Way bloomed, and wisps of sharp sword chi emerged and chopped at Lin Sun. 36 flowers bloomed, and the sword cut through the 9 heavens. At the same time, other descendants of the primitive Taoist court also launched a fierce attack. They either activated the incomparably wonderful Taoist magic or sacrificed the colorful treasures. Each of them was more powerful than the other. That scene was enough to make any Saint King tremble. However, Lin Sun looked calm, as if he was unaware of it. His clothes were fluttering, and he rushed forward. A broken sword made a clear sound, as if it felt the killing intent in its master's heart and was about to devour him. Around him, there were endless Taishian sword chi flowing out, turning into sword curtain, sword rain, sword storm, sword mountains and rivers at this moment. Under the stimulation of anger, his spirit was roaring and boiling like a big furnace, and all his power was running with all his strength. At this moment, he didn't intend to hold back anymore. Kill! With his long black hair flying, Lin Sun's figure was bright, like a peerless blade, flashing between heaven and earth, and his breath was like a demon. Boom! The battle broke out, and the world was turbulent. The chaotic divine light and treasure light intertwined and spread, causing the void to be chaotic and the rocks and plants to be crushed. Puff! In just 3 seconds, a person's chest was pierced by a broken sword, and his whole body was slashed and flew out fiercely, letting out a shrill scream. Before his figure fell to the ground, he was taken out of the mysterious yellow secret realm in mid-air. Kill, kill! At this moment, Xian Rujia's face also changed. When they really fought, they realized how terrible the combat power of their opponent was. Originally, this should have been a battle of encirclement, but the opponent was like a sharp awl that forcefully tore apart their encirclement with irresistible force. 10 seconds. Another unwilling roar sounded in the field. A person was crushed by the sword mountain derived from the Taishian sword chi. His body cracked and bled, and he was eliminated. At this moment, Lin Sun was invincible, and his courage was matchless. His opponents were a group of Saint Kings, the core figures of the primitive Taoist court, one of the 6 Taoist courts. Each of them had an extremely strong Tao foundation, and in the outside world, they could be regarded as overlords in the same realm. But at this moment, under Lin Sun's attack, they looked very weak. No matter who it was, as long as they were targeted by Lin Sun, they were destined to be eliminated. 30 seconds. Damn it, bastard. Accompanied by a deafening roar, the 3 successors of the primitive Taoist court were swept away by Lin Sun's cut of heaven, and their bodies flew out like broken kites. Blood sprayed from their mouths and noses, and they saw stars. Before they could stand still, Lin Sun had rushed to kill them again and defeated them easily and eliminated them. The unparalleled invincible posture made Xian Rujia and the others' eyes almost pop out of their sockets, and they were shocked and angry to the extreme. They couldn't imagine how the combat power of the first person in Yunzhou could be so heaven-defying and terrible, and it completely subverted their inherent understanding. Kill. Lin Sun's black eyes were cold. Although he didn't use the Tao field, with his current strength, every move was branded with the mystery of the Tao field, and it was full of unparalleled power. Under such a killing attack, the formation of Xian Rujia and the others was completely broken. Not to mention jointly suppressing Lin Sun. They had to dodge at all times to avoid Lin Sun's attack. In the distance, Jin Tian Xinyue witnessed this scene, and her heart was filled with a kind of indescribable joy and emotion, and a smile appeared on her pale lips. She knew that Lin Sun was avenging her. There were also people who tried to attack her, but they were intercepted by Lin Sun halfway, and he defeated them in an absolutely crushing manner. Even Xian Rujia, who was ranked 17th on the Holy King list, couldn't contain Lin Sun's attack at all. On the contrary, he was suppressed by Lin Sun again and again, and he coughed up blood again and again. In the field, screams, roars, and curses mixed with the earth-shattering sound of battle resounded one after another. In this area, there was a rain of blood, and the air was filled with a horrifying atmosphere. And Lin Sun was like a devil who pushed forward, sweeping away all obstacles along the way, and no one could fight him head-on. Boom! In the burst of the rain of light, another person was punched by Lin Sun, and the protective armor on his body suddenly burst into pieces, and this person was eliminated without any accident. So far, a total of 9 successors of the primitive Taoist court had been suppressed, and there were less than 6 people left beside Xian Rujia. More than half of them had been injured, and the hearts of Xian Rujia and others had long been covered with a shadow of fear, and they were horrified by Lin Sun's extraordinary fighting power. Run, run, this guy is not our opponent at all. Go to help senior brother Kong Zhao. Xian Rujia and others directly chose to escape, for there was no way to fight at all. The opponent was like a sickle, and they were like straws. How could they fight? Unfortunately, they didn't know that Lin Sun, who was stimulated by anger, had never intended to let anyone go from the beginning. Chapter 2039. An invisible devouring force, centered on Lin Sun's figure, suddenly spread in all directions. The nearby rocks and plants were instantly turned into powder, and a huge vortex appeared in the void, spreading in all directions. Damn it, what is this power? Why can't I resist it? There were screams. The disciples of the prehistoric Tao court that were fleeing in all directions felt as if they were grabbed by a large hand from behind and dragged fiercely, causing their fleeing figures to suddenly stop moving. Boom! The void was turned into a storm vortex, and the terrifying devouring force made the place where Lin Sun stood like a starry black hole. Xian Rujia and others struggled desperately, but they seemed to be trapped in a swamp, going against the current. They looked tired and horrified. What kind of power was this? At this moment, Lin Sun stretched out his figure and displayed Taishian Sword Chi, first cut of Heaven Yuan, Fist of Shaking Heaven, 9 Changes of Calamity Dragon, Great Divination, Void-Breaking Finger, and so on. They rushed to Exion Rugia and others. For a time, this area was in chaos and turbulence. Smoke and dust filled the air, and blazing divine light covered the universe. Some people were swept by the boundless sword chi, screaming and wailing. Some people were hit by the fist chi and flew out upside down. Some people were smashed by the broken sword, bleeding from 7 orifices. Some people, these bloody scenes happened almost at the same time in an instant. When the haze dissipated, the dust settled. In the field, except for the life talismans on the ground, Exion Rugia was the only one left, and the others were eliminated. Jean Tian Xuanyue's heart was filled with uncontrollable shock. The young master, he was getting stronger and stronger. Exion Rugia seemed to have lost his soul. His face was gloomy and his eyes were lifeless. He murmured, "No, this is impossible. How can a person do this? You must have cheated. You must have used a forbidden secret method." At the end of his words, his face suddenly became ferocious, and he roared like a madman. Lin Sun said indifferently, "There are so many emperors watching outside. If I cheated, can I still stand here safely?" "No, you must have cheated," Exion Rugia roared, and his eyes were red. He couldn't accept all this. All of them were core disciples of the primordial Tao court, and any one of them could be considered to be an overlord in the other prefectures of the primordial world. Yet now, they'd been utterly defeated by a single person, and they'd completely shown the scene of a defeated army collapsing like a landslide. This made Exion Rugia's heart bleed. How could he accept this? Lin Sun didn't want to say more. Whoosh! The broken blade swept out, and a cold light flashed. In just a few breaths, Exion Rugia was defeated and eliminated. Before being eliminated, Exion Rugia let out an indignant and angry shout. "You cheated. You despicable thing. You must have cheated." In the outside world, many Emperor Realm experts fell into a rare silence. Even with their temperament and experience, after witnessing Lin Sun's one-against-many and absolutely crushing battle, they couldn't help but feel a ripple in their hearts and were unable to calm down. Did he cheat? That's impossible. With so many old fellows watching, how could they allow a cheating situation to occur? But it was also because of this that they felt Jean Dui was more and more terrifying. A single person crushed everyone like a hot knife through butter, and the descendants of the primordial Tao court couldn't resist at all from the beginning to the end. This was undoubtedly too shocking. After a while, Taishu Hong sighed with emotion. Among all the Saint King realm experts in the world, Jean Dui can be said to be second to none, and in this mysterious yellow secret realm, there are bound to be very few who can compare with him. At this moment, Empress Huoling, Demon Emperor Burning Sky, and others were speechless. In the face of absolute facts, even they had to admit that they had indeed underestimated this young man called Jean Dui from the beginning. Xia Xinglia drank a cup of wine and winked at Xia Xiaocheng. "Little girl, what do you think of Jean Dui? If he is Brother Lin, then he's one of the best in the world. If not, just forget what I said," Xia Xiaocheng said crisply. Xia Xinglia couldn't help laughing. "Let's go, I'll take you to heal." After defeating Exion Rugia and the others, Lin Sun left the battlefield with Jin Tian Xinhue. In less than an hour, he defeated Wu Huang and the others, and trapped Tu Qinjue and the others with the formation. Even when he was besieged by Zhu Fiyu, Yin Yuro, and Tu Qinjue, he broke through the siege without any danger. Until just now, when he doted on Exion Rugia and the others. Although Lin Sun was not injured, he also felt a wave of fatigue. He had a hunch that from today onwards, in this mysterious yellow secret realm, there would be many eyes on him. Sure enough, on the same day, news about his achievements swept through the mysterious yellow secret realm like a storm. For a time, it caused many surprise and uproar. No one had expected that the #1 cultivator in the Cloud Prefecture would be so ferocious. He was able to suppress the joint attack of the core disciples of the 6 great Tao courts by himself. Jean Dui. When Ling Hongzhuang heard the news, she had just defeated a group of opponents and obtained more than 10 life talismans. She was quite surprised. Looks like there will be one more person in the list of characters that can be battled. A glint flashed across her eyes. Junior brother, Tu Qianjue, and a group of people were no match for him. It seems that this person's combat strength is strong enough to compete for the top 3 on the King's Sage list. Huangfu Xiaonong was deep in thought. There was always someone better than him. He knew very well that there were many hidden monstrous figures in this mysterious yellow secret realm. Like the moon, like fire, like white. But he did not expect that there would be such a shocking and ruthless figure in a place like Cloud State. If I run into him, I'll have to test this kid's strength. Huangfu Xiaonong's figure was like a god, and his eyes were full of divine light. This guy is still as fierce as before. Xian Jiuyin sighed. Xian Jiuyin, the young man in linen, sighed. Originally, he thought that if he could meet Lin Sun in this Tao discussion grand meeting, they could have a spar and compete. But now, he finally suppressed this idea. This damn thing. When Kong Zhao of the primitive Taoism court learned of this, his face suddenly became extremely cold. He could not forget the scene where he was injured by Lin Sun outside the mountain gate of the black-yellow Taoism court before the Taoism discussion grand meeting began. This was regarded as a shame by him. What he did not expect was that now, Xi and Ruja and other disciples of the primitive Taoism court had all been killed by this person. If I don't suppress you, how can I, the successor of the primitive Taoism court, show my face? Kong Zhao's heart was surging with killing intent. At the same time, Zhu Feiyu and Tu Qianjue had already taken action. They were contacting their fellow disciples to take action together against Lin Sun. Brother Jean is in big trouble. Lu Dubu let out a long sigh, his expression uncertain. Beside him, Xie Yuhua, Wang Tu, Su Muhan, and Lung Xiujia all had different expressions. They all came from Yunzhou and had seen Lin Sun's performance in Yunzhou's Tao discussion competition. But they did not expect that this guy, who had once suppressed them, would be so powerful. Now, the successors of the Heaven and Earth Taoism court, the primitive Taoism court, and the Devil Taoism court all have a grudge against Brother Jean. This is only what we know. Whether there are others targeting Brother Jean, we can't be sure. Lu Dubu pondered and said, "Everyone, do you think we should go to support Brother Jean?" This sentence made Xie Yuhua and others silent and hesitant in their hearts. Support? I think it's suicide. This guy is already the target of public criticism. How can we fight against those terrifying figures? Wang Tu said without hesitation, "In my opinion, it's best to let him fend for himself." At the beginning, didn't Brother Lu also invite Jin Duyi and Jin Tian Xianyue to act together? But they didn't give us a clear answer. Su Muhan took a deep breath and said, "What's more, with our strength, it's impossible to fight against the core successors of those giants. If we go to support Jin Duyi, it's very likely that we'll all suffer. It's not wise." It seems that everyone thinks so. Lu Dubu said in a deep voice, "Then let's do it." Xie Yuhua originally wanted to say something, but seeing this, she sighed in her heart and immediately lost the mood to speak. At this moment, Lung Xiujia, who had been silent, suddenly turned around and walked into the distance. "Brother Lung, where are you going?" Lu Dubu couldn't help but ask. "I heard that Jin Di was targeted by the successors of those great forces because he wanted to save Tang Yichen and returning to the mountains. Now that he's in trouble, I'm going to do what I should do." Lung Xiujia didn't look back, and his figure gradually disappeared. Seeing this, the expressions of Lu Dubu and the others changed indeterminately. This guy is simply impulsive. When he's implicated by Jin Di and eliminated, let's see if he regrets it. Wang Tu snorted coldly. Everyone has their own ambitions. It's more important for us to do our own things. Lu Dubu sighed. He knew that not helping Jin Dui was the wisest choice, but he was still a little unhappy in his heart. It was as if, after making this choice, he had lost something. "I only hope that Brother Jean is blessed by heaven and can persist to the end." Xie Yuhua also sighed faintly. When the situation in the whole mysterious yellow realm was changing, an underground cave was opened in the depths of a huge ravine where not even a blade of grass grew. Outside the cave, there was a Taoist restriction formation that concealed the aura. Inside the cave, Jin Tian Xianyue was swallowing the divine medicine to heal his injuries, while Lin Sun was adjusting his breath to restore his physical strength while studying the jade slip left by senior brother Shinkong. The atmosphere was quiet, as if isolated from the world. The two of them were completely unaware of the storm outside. If we can hide here until the end of this discussion, that would be great. Suddenly, Jin Tian Xianyue, who was healing, said softly. Chapter 2040. Jin Dui had disappeared. As time went by, the experts distributed in the mysterious yellow secret realm found that Jin Dui, who had been targeted by many terrifying figures, had disappeared without a trace. He must be hiding somewhere. Search. Even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground, we must find him. Tu Qinjue's face was gloomy. He had gathered a group of experts from the Heaven and Earth Taoism court and obtained the support of Huangfu Xiaonong. When they found Lin, as long as they spread the news, Huangfu Xiaonong would come to support them as soon as possible. That's right. Jin Dui has obviously sensed that something is amiss and has retreated. Everyone, let's search together. The black-yellow mystery realm is not big. With our manpower, we should be able to search the entire place in less than 7 days. Zhu Feiyu said in a low voice. Around him, a group of descendants of the Devil Court followed. It was a luxurious lineup, including some ruthless figures ranked in the top 30 on the Holy King list. Moreover, neither Tu Qinjue nor Zhu Feiyu worried about whether they would encounter any opponents during the search. After all, any sane expert would run away the first time they saw such a large lineup. They would not dare to fight against them at all. In another area, the descendants of the primitive Taoism court, led by Kong Zhao, were also searching for Lin's whereabouts aggressively. It seemed that they would not stop until they killed Lin. Under such a vigorous search and capture operation, some experts who had been hiding in different parts of the mysterious yellow secret realm all complained secretly. Most of these people possessed marvelous methods of concealing themselves, and they hoped to conceal themselves in order to avoid the horrifying battles and persist until the end. They didn't have any hope of seizing the life talisman at all. But now, as the large-scale search for Lin Sun began, their hiding places were all discovered. Many people were eliminated by Tu Qinjue, Zhu Feiyu, and the others. Damn Jin Dui, he caused such a big trouble, but he doesn't care about others' lives. In this way, how can there be a place to hide in the mysterious yellow secret realm? It's over. Without a place to hide, how can people like us be a match for the descendants of the 6 major Taoism courts and the top 10 war clans? Many people complained and criticized Lin Sun in their hearts. In the depths of a world of ice and snow. Quick, there's an underground ice cave here. When Zhu Feiyu, Tu Qinjue, and the others arrived, the scene of an underground ice cave covered in ice and snow appeared in their divine senses. At this instant, the hearts of everyone went cold for no rhyme or reason, and they sensed a strand of a faintly discernible aura of danger. Could this be Jin Dui's hiding place? Someone shouted. There were also some people who wanted to go forward and blast open the ice cave by relying on their numbers, but they were stopped by Zhu Feiyu. Don't move. Everyone, be careful. His expression was unusually solemn. This isn't Jin Dui's aura. Tu Qinjue's expression also changed. Could it be? Misty Rain's pupils constricted as if she had guessed something. Seeing the 3 peerless figures in the top 10 of the All Heavens King, Saint ranking acting as if they were facing a great enemy, everyone else felt a chill in their hearts and became vigilant. The atmosphere also became oppressive and austere. Only the sound of the biting wind and snow could be heard. Jin Dui? Has this person become so powerful that all of you have to join forces before you dare to attack him? A voice that was as calm as water suddenly resounded in the world of wind and snow. Every word reverberated like the sound of the Tao. They were ethereal, yet they reached the hearts of people. The expressions of Zhu Feiyu, Tu Qinjue, and Misty Rain changed again. They saw a thin figure appear in the underground ice cave. With a light step, he appeared in the outside world. The wind and snow filled the air. He wore a white robe and had a head of white hair. There was no aura about him at all, and he gave off an ordinary feeling. However, when everyone met his eyes, they were shocked. It was as if they had been stabbed by a sharp and peerless sword, and a layer of goosebumps appeared on their bodies. What kind of eyes were those? They were as clear as water and as calm as a mirror, but there seemed to be all sorts of phenomena in the world surging within them. The sun, moon, and stars floated within them, flickering indefinitely. At this instant, everyone had the feeling that even if they had the advantage in numbers, they felt as if they were the only one left when facing this white-haired and white-robed man, and they felt indescribably oppressive and perturbed. Miwuya. Zhu Feiyu softly uttered a name. These 3 words seemed to have a strange magical power, causing everyone to hold their breaths and their expressions to change. It was him, the legend who had dominated the first place on the All Heavens King Saint board for 600 years, a peerless expert who was the focus of attention in all heavens. He was also regarded as truly invincible among the peak King Saint realm. This was because he had never been defeated since he rose to the first place on the All Heavens King Saint board, and no one had been able to shake his position. Everyone felt bitter in their hearts. No matter how they racked their brains, they would never have thought that the operation to capture Jin Dui would uncover such a terrifying existence. We were a little rash earlier. Please don't blame us, brother me. We will leave immediately. After taking a deep breath, Tu Qinjue cupped his hands and bowed. Even though he was also in the top 10 of the All Heavens King Saint board, there was still a large gap between him and a legendary figure like Miwuya. He had no choice but to bow his head. With that, he was about to leave with everyone. However, Miwuya said calmly, "You're leaving just like that after disturbing my peaceful cultivation? Hand over your life talismans, and I'll let you go." It was a very calm sentence, but it shocked Tu Qinjue and the others, causing them to stop in their tracks. "Hand over your life talismans," Zhu Feiyu said through gritted teeth. He knew very well that Miwuya's rumored state of mind was like water and his temperament was like iron. He never went back on his word, so he would do as he said. Otherwise, Miwuya would use his actions to prove the price of disobedience. As he spoke, Zhu Feiyu was the first to hand over his life talismans. Tu Qinjue and Yin Yuro followed suit. When the others saw this, they were shocked by Miwuya's power and obediently handed over their life talismans. After doing all this, everyone had the same feeling in their hearts. If Miwuya had not gone into hiding since the beginning of this discussion, how many experts in the Heaven-Earth Mystery Realm would have been eliminated by him? If he had the intention to fight for the life talismans, who could have protected them? However, Miwuya did not even look at the life talismans. Instead, he said, "One last question. Who is that Jin Dui?" Zhu Feiyu was taken aback. He immediately said, "He comes from the cloud state, and his combat strength is unfathomable. He's like a monster that cannot be described with common sense." He praised Lin Sun generously in one breath. Tu Qinjue and the others quickly realized that Zhu Feiyu was obviously doing this to pique Miwuya's interest so that he might attack Jin Dui. Thinking about it, if someone like Miwuya were to take action, wouldn't Jin Dui be finished? Miwuya listened quietly and looked at Zhu Feiyu. Really? Zhu Feiyu felt inexplicably nervous, but he still braced himself and said, "Absolutely." Miwuya nodded. "If that's the case, Jin Dui is indeed a character. However, don't think that I can't see through your intentions. You're just trying to use me to deal with Jin Dui." Zhu Feiyu's expression stiffened. He was just about to explain when Miwuya continued. "If that person has the chance to enter the forbidden ancient immortal zone, I might try to test his abilities. You may leave. This will not happen again." Miwuya disappeared into thin air after he spoke. Zhu Feiyu, Tu Qinjue, and the others looked at each other before they turned around and left without hesitation. They only heaved a long sigh of relief when they left the world of ice and snow. Miwuya is becoming more and more terrifying. When I face him, I feel like I'm looking up at a towering mountain. Zhu Feiyu had a complicated expression on his face. It said that he already possessed the ability to become a Ju Shi quasi-emperor several hundred years ago. The reason why he's been suppressing his cultivation level is because he's waiting for an opportunity. Yin Yuro murmured softly. Zhu Feiyu was not the only one. She also felt an unprecedented sense of nervousness when facing Mi Wuya. It's a pity that Mi Wuya isn't interested in Jin Di, Tu Qinjue sighed softly. Let's go. If Mi Wuya doesn't make a move, won't we be able to kill him with so many of us? Zhu Feiyu took a deep breath and strode forward. The others hurriedly followed. At the same time, the martial emperors who witnessed everything on the bound of universe main peak in the outside world also had strange expressions on their faces. Fellow Taoist Yun Yin, Mi Wuya is an heir to Panwu Dao court. Exactly what level has he attained on his path towards the Dao? Someone asked. All eyes turned to Panwu Dao court's Emperor Yun Yin for a moment. Great Emperor Cloudy Rock smiled with a hint of pride from the bottom of his heart. In my opinion, Mi Wuya is the best among his peers in the peerless Saint King realm. He is unparalleled. Best among his peers. Unparalleled. Those few words clearly showed that Mi Wuya was the best Zhu Shi stage person in the history of the Zhu Shi stage. This caused many martial emperors' hearts to churn. There were also some who did not agree with this, but could not refute it either. This was because Mi Wuya had dominated the All Heavens King Sage, ranking for 600 years, and was truly invincible. You're wrong. Xia Xinglia suddenly sneered. Yin Yin, don't flatter your own successor. Let's not talk about the current era. Let's talk about the past. There was an unparalleled person who was regarded as unparalleled in the saint stage in all heavens. Compared to him, Mi Wuya is still a little lacking. As soon as he said that, many of the Emperor Realm cultivators' expressions became unnatural again. Unparalleled in the saint stage in all heavens. Only one person had such a title in the past. However, that person came from Fonsen Mountain, and Fonsen Mountain was a faction that most of the emperors present were unwilling to mention. Emperor Yin Yin felt a little uncomfortable and could not help saying, Xia Xinglia, don't you think it's too much to compare Mi Wuya with a vile spawn who died in ancient times? Xia Xinglia laughed and drank to his heart content. He slapped his thigh and said, Who can be called unparalleled in the saint stage? Who dares to say they can't be defeated? Only Fonsa Mountain's Xian Kong knows about this. Who hasn't heard of this saying on the starry ancient path? Chapter 2041. Xian Kong. The name stirred subtle emotions in the hearts of all the great emperors present. In primordial times, some of them had never become emperors. Speaking of which, they were of the same generation as Xian Kong. But in that era, their brilliance had been completely overshadowed by the same person. The 49th successor of Mount Innerheart, Xian Kong. Xian Kong. Sigh. Tai Shu Hong suddenly let out a long sigh. During the Emperor Dao battle back then, the Heaven Yellow Dao court had remained neutral and stayed out of it. However, Tai Shu Hong also felt that it was a pity for Xian Kong's death. Back then, an old monster from the Heaven Yellow Dao court who specialized in compiling the All Heavens Sage Monarch ranking had commented that if Xian Kong had become an emperor, he would be one of the best in the Emperor realm. Unfortunately, such a legend who had dominated the heavens for a period of time had perished in the Emperor Dao battle. What's there to pity? Everyone from Mount Innerheart should be killed. The Fire Spirit Empress's brows were filled with coldness. Let's not talk about the past. Even though Xian Kong has perished, he was once in existence that we could only look up to. Mi Wuya is also extraordinary. Compared to Xian Kong, he only lacks an opportunity to prove to the world that he is truly invincible. Tai Shu Hong pondered deeply and said, The Dao discussion this time is such an opportunity for Mi Wuya. Everyone just wait and see. Time passed. Amidst the tragic and cruel Dao discussion, half a month had passed in the Heaven Yellow Mystic Realm. In that half a month, there were all sorts of killings and fierce battles happening almost every day. Be it for life talismans or survival, every cultivator fought with all their might. By now, more than half of the 1,849 people who participated in the Dao discussion had been eliminated, leaving just over 600 experts. Among them, the experts from the various prefectures had suffered the most losses. They made up the majority of the eliminated experts. Many monstrous figures from other worlds in the universe had also suffered losses, But at the same time, a group of extremely dazzling and ruthless figures had emerged. For example, Jing Tianan from one of the 9 major stellar regions, the scenic Glaze stellar region. His sword Dao was omnipotent and invincible. For example, Wen Yu, who came from the White 2 stellar domain, wielded a Dao domain, galactic flow. Even some of the famous figures ranked on the Sage King roll of the heavens have been suppressed by him. Monstrous geniuses like Jing Tianan and Wen Yu's battle prowess could be said to be world-shocking. Even the Monarch realm experts in the outside world kept glancing at them. Comparatively speaking, the experts from the 6 Dao courts, the 10 war clans, and the other Daoist prefectures of the Central Earth suffered the least. Moreover, half of the injured experts were eliminated by Lin Sun. This fact also made Lin Sun's name, Jin Dui, more and more eye-catching. At the same time, Zhu Feiyu, Tu Qinjue, and Kong Zhao hated Lin Sun even more because most of the experts who were injured by Lin Sun were from the forces behind them. Therefore, even though half a month had passed, the search for Lin Sun was still going on vigorously. Lin Sun, who was meditating in the underground cave, was alarmed by a wave of obscure Taoist forbidden formation. Yu, we should change places, Lin Sun said as he stood up. During this period of time, he and Jin Tian Xinhue would hide in a different place every 1 or 2 days. Every time they hid, Lin Sun would set up many Taoist forbidden formations. Some were set up in front of the cave to conceal their auras, and some were set up in different directions thousands of feet away from the cave to serve as early warning. Just like now, the obscure wave that alarmed Lin Sun came from a Taoist forbidden formation thousands of feet away. It seemed that there were experts approaching this area, with such a tight defensive formation protecting them. Lin Sun and Jin Tian Xinhue did not encounter any danger in these days. Okay, Jin Tian Xinhue nodded. Her injuries had completely healed, and she had regained her former vigor. Her beauty was peerless, and her charm was like that of an immortal. After walking out of the cave, Lin Sun casually put away the formation he had set up. Just as he was about to leave quietly with Jin Tian Xinhue, he was suddenly startled. In the next moment, he smiled and said, "What a coincidence. It's not enemies this time, but some acquaintances. Come, let's go and meet them." Acquaintances? Jin Tian Xinhue thought as she followed them. On a barren field, when they sensed the power of the activated Taoist forbidden formation, Lu Dubu and the others were nervous and avoided it. After observing for a while and seeing that there was no danger, Lu Dubu said, "I see. This is a defensive formation. Once it is touched, it will be detected by the experts lurking in this area. Those who like to lurk are usually the most cautious. However, we can't barge in rashly." Xie Yuhua said quickly, "Next, we can only change our direction." Damn it! Wang Tu's childish face revealed a ruthless look. Now, the situation in the Xianhuang mystery realm is getting worse and more dangerous. The most hateful thing is that because Jin Di is being hunted, there is no safe place to hide in the Xianhuang mystery realm. The more he said, the angrier he became. Recently, no matter where they went, they would be watched. No matter where they hid, they would be discovered very quickly. There were a few times when they were almost eliminated. It's not that our luck is bad, and it's not Jin Dui's fault. Many experts have been eliminated in the Xianhuang mystery realm. Those who are able to survive are stronger than the other. Compared to them, we are much inferior. Xie Yuhua could not help but say, "In Yinzhou, we can hold our heads high and be arrogant among our peers. But in the Xianhuang mystery realm, we are just prey in the eyes of others." There was a hint of bitterness in his voice. These days, if they had not been working together, they would have been eliminated long ago. But everyone knew that as time passed, people like them could be in danger of being eliminated at any time. How is it not Jin Dui's fault? Wang Tu said unhappily. When the others knew that we were from Yinzhou, they did not dare to work together with us. They were afraid that they would be misunderstood by the descendants of Qian Kun, demons, and untainted land. Moreover, some people even said that they would capture us to force Jin Dui to show himself. How can it not be Jin Dui's fault? In my opinion, The reason why we have fallen into such a predicament now is mostly because of Jean Dui. Xie Yuhua frowned. How can you push the blame to others when you are so weak? Enough. Lu Debu interrupted. Don't talk about this anymore. The most important thing now is to find a place to hide and let Su Muhan heal. Next to them, Su Muhan, who had been silent, looked pale. He had been seriously injured in a battle before and had not recovered until now. Wang Tu and Xie Yuhua immediately shut up. However, just as they were about to change direction and leave this area, two familiar figures floated over from afar. Lu Dubu and others were stunned. Brother Jean, Miss Xinyue, why are you here? Lu Dubu blurted out. He was so surprised that he never expected to meet Lin Sun and Jean Tian Xinyue here. The others were also stunned. Wang Tu's expression was slightly stiff, but his eyes did not hide his resistance and rejection. Su Muhan's lips twitched, and he sighed inwardly. What a coincidence! He did not know whether their conversation had been heard by Jean Dui. Xie Yuhua's expression was complicated. In half a month, the man in front of them had become one of the most popular figures in Xianwang's secret realm. Even if he had become the target of public criticism and the situation was not optimistic, it still could not change the fact that he was powerful. I didn't expect to see you here. Lin Sun glanced at the crowd and said with a smile, By the way, didn't Lung Xiujia act with you? Where is he? Brother Jean, you didn't see him? Xie Yuhua couldn't help asking. Lin Sun was stunned. What do you mean? Xie Yuhua whispered. We heard that you were in a bad situation. As early as 5 days ago, Lung Xiujia left alone, saying that he was going to find you. Her voice was a little unnatural. Jean Tian Xinyue keenly noticed something and suddenly said, But why did he leave alone? Could it be that Lung Xiujia acted alone because you didn't intend to help me and Brother Jean? Xie Yuhua felt bitter in her heart. Wang Tu said coldly, Miss Xinyue, it's our duty to help others. At that time, we couldn't even take care of ourselves. How can we help you? After a pause, he continued, Besides, the trouble was caused by Jean Dui himself. But now, even we have been implicated by him. His voice was full of resentment. For a moment, the atmosphere became oppressive and subtle. Lin Sun saw all this and heard it in his heart. Looking at the expressions of Lu Dubu and others, he already knew what was going on. Jean Tan Xinyue felt very uncomfortable and said in a cold voice, Brother Jean regarded us as his own people, so he helped Tony Chin and Mount returning when they were in trouble. Wang Tu, even if you don't help because you're worried about getting into trouble, you don't have to make sarcastic remarks. It should have been a happy thing for acquaintances to meet, but the scene in front of her made Jean Tian Xinyue feel disgusted. They could understand each other if they didn't want to help, but it was too much to push all the blame to Lin Sun. Well, don't quarrel. Lu Dubu dissuaded with a bitter smile. Brother Jean, we didn't take action to help you before because we were in a worrying situation. It's not that we were unwilling, but that we couldn't. I hope you can understand. Lin Sun smiled and nodded. I understand. After all, there was no deep relationship between him and Lu Dubu and others. They were just from the same camp in Yinzhou. Whether to help or not, it was all up to them. Brother Lu, let's leave quickly so as not to be misunderstood and implicated again. Wang Tu said impatiently. Chapter 2042. Hearing Wang Tu's words, Jean Tian Xuanyue's eyes flashed coldly. She was about to say something, but was stopped by Lin Sun. Let's go. Lin Sun turned around and left. When Jean Tian Xinyue saw this, he glanced at Wang Tu, Lu Dubu, and the others, and said, From today onwards, we have nothing to do with each other. You guys go your own way, and we'll go ours. Then, she turned around and caught up with Lin Sun. Lu Dubu wanted to say something, but stopped. In the end, he let out a long sigh, feeling a little upset. A battle of the Tao had caused the relationship between them to break apart. This made Lu Dubu somewhat suspicious. Was it really too heartless for them to do this? Wang Tu sneered. What do you mean by no relationship? We didn't have any relationship before. You are flattering yourself. Xie Yuhua looked gloomy, and inexplicable anger rose in her heart. She said, Wang Tu, you have resentment in your heart, but don't represent us. Lu Dubu and Su Muhan hurriedly tried to persuade her. Lung Xiujia had already left, and they had cut off their relationship with Jin Duyi and Jin Tian Xinhua. At this time, they could not have any internal conflicts. A short while later, the group of them finally left. Wang Tu's face is so hateful. After catching up with Lin Sun, Jin Tian Xinhua couldn't help saying, not hiding her disgust. Lin Sun said, casually, it's nothing more than self-protection. It's understandable. Child, you're not angry? Jin Tian Xinhua was stunned. Lin Sun couldn't help laughing. Him? That's not worthy of my anger. I've encountered similar treatment since a long time ago. They either viewed me as a dreadful beast or viewed me as a calamity, and they were deeply afraid of being unable to avoid me and being implicated. What's more, I don't want anyone to help me. I don't have any relationship with Wang Tuesday. Speaking of this, Lin Sun suddenly thought of something. Xinhua, we have to go find them. Why? Lung Xiujia similarly doesn't have much of a relationship with me, but he actually took the initiative to help me. This is a great favor, and Lu Dubu should have a way to contact Lung Xiujia. I want to go find Lung Xiujia. Lin Sun said, and turned around to go back. Okay. Jin Tian Xinhua agreed readily. Brother Su, let's rest here. In front of an inconspicuous low mountain range, Lu Dubu looked around and revealed a satisfied expression. All right, Su Muhan agreed. He was seriously injured and needed to recuperate in time. Xie Yuhua and Wang Tu naturally had no objections. However, right when they intended to dig open an abode and rest, a wave of the sound of the air being torn apart suddenly sounded out from afar. So. The dense expanse of cultivators were like numerous dazzling flowing lights that whistled over from afar, and their impetus was vast and mighty. Leading them was Tu Qinjue of the Heaven and Earth Dao Court, Zhu Feiyu of the Demon Dao Court, and Yin Yurosha of the Black-Yellow Dao Court. Behind them were a group of experts. Not good. Lu Dubu and the others stiffened, as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Who would have thought that in this desolate wilderness, they would actually encounter such a luxurious team of experts? Run! They left without hesitation. However, they were surrounded halfway through their journey. The difference in their strength was too great, and their opponents were all core heirs of powerful forces like the 6 major Dao courts. Not to mention the others, just Zhu Feiyu, Tu Qinjue, and Yin Yuro were enough to make them feel despair. It's over. Lu Dubu and the others all had the same thought, and their expressions turned gloomy. It's all that Jin Duyi's fault. It's all that Jin Duyi's fault. We only met him once, and we're about to be eliminated. This guy's a complete malefic. At this moment, Wang Tu could not help but shout hoarsely. He was filled with unwillingness and resentment. Zhu Feiyu originally did not take Lu Dubu and the others seriously. He only thought that they were some prey that he had encountered along the way. He planned to attack and eliminate Lu Dubu and the others. However, when he heard Wang Tu's words, he immediately revealed a strange expression and waved his hand. Don't attack first. The experts surrounding Lu Dubu all stopped what they were doing. You said that you saw Jin Dui just now. Zhu Feiyu's eyes were like lightning as he locked onto Wang Tuesday, Yin Yuro, Tu Qinjue, and the others also became spirited. They had been searching for Lin Sun's whereabouts in the Heaven and Earth Mystery Realm for the past few days. They had even provoked the terrifying Mi Wuya during the search. Even now, they still felt a lingering fear when they thought about it. Even so, they had not been able to find Lin Sun until now. This caused them to have a belly full of anger that they had nowhere to vent. Right now, Wang Tu's resentful words made them realize that their opportunity had come. Lu Dubu's expression changed, and he hurriedly shook his head. No. Swoosh. Zhu Feiyu's gaze was as sharp as a blade. He glanced at Lu Dubu and said coldly, "If you dare to speak out of turn, don't blame me for sending you on your way first." Lu Dubu's expression was uncertain, and his heart was filled with indescribable frustration. In the Cloud Prefecture, he was one of the most dazzling young experts. However, in front of Zhu Feiyu, who was ranked in the top 10 of the All Heavens King Sage board, he was completely insignificant. I recognize them. They are the same as Jin Dui. They are experts from the Cloud Prefecture. Someone suddenly spoke up and revealed the identity of Lu Dubu and the others. Lu Dubu and the others' expressions changed again. Zhu Feiyu, Yin Yuro, and Tu Qinjue looked at each other with joy. Tell me where Jin Dui is. Not only will I let you leave, but I will also not snatch your life talismans. Otherwise, you know the consequences, Zhu Feiyu said in a low voice. His clothes were unbuttoned, and his long hair was loose. He carried a long sword on his back, and he looked very wild. You tell me. Zhu Feiyu stared at Wang Tuesday. Wang Tu took a deep breath and said, Are you really going to let us go? Wang Tu, you must not say anything. Su Muhan shouted. Everything that happens in the heaven and earth mystery realm is seen by the martial emperors in the outside world. If you betray Brother Jin, even if you're lucky enough to escape, you are destined to lose your reputation in front of the world. Boom! Suddenly, Tu Qinjue made a move and pressed his palm across the air. Su Muhan was already injured, so he was directly suppressed by the palm. His body smashed to the ground, and blood spurted from his mouth and nose. His face became pale and transparent. You're courting death. Tu Qinjue spat out these words softly. Lu Dubu and Xie Yuhua could not help but feel anxious and desperate, but they looked at Wang Tu to stop him with their eyes. However, Wang Tu turned a deaf ear to them. He gritted his teeth and said, Jin Dui has repeatedly implicated us. Even if you didn't ask, I would have told you his whereabouts. Zhu Feiyu smiled and said, A wise man submits to circumstances. You are a smart man. Tell us quickly. Tu Qinjue could not help but urge him. 10 minutes ago, we met him in a wasteland 100 miles away. When he left in the southwest direction with that bitch Jin Tian Xinhua. If you go all out to chase after him now, you can definitely catch up with him. Wang Tu betrayed Lin Sun without hesitation. Hearing this, Lu Dubu and Xie Yuhua sighed in their hearts. Their hands and feet were cold. Wang Tu's actions made them feel bitterly disappointed. Su Muhan, who was suppressed on the ground, was so angry that his eyes almost popped out. He was so angry that his whole body trembled. In his opinion, even if he had to part ways with Lin Sun, he would not do such a despicable and shameless thing. This was a betrayal. In order to survive in the Xianhuang secret realm, he would even throw away his dignity and shame? Good. Zhu Feiyu looked up to the sky and laughed. You're a straightforward man. You can leave now. Wang Tu also laughed. Then, he was startled and asked, What about my friends? Them? Tu Qinjue, who was next to him, showed a cold look. Since they don't cooperate, we can only send them on their way. Wang Tu said angrily, Didn't you say that you would let all of us go? Why? You don't want to leave? Tu Qinjue said impatiently. Wang Tu's face turned green and white. He was struggling in his heart. Of course, he wanted to leave. Otherwise, he would not be so cooperative. However, he knew that even if he left safely, he would be eliminated soon. The reason was simple. He was alone and did not have the qualifications to fight against the other experts. Get lost, Tu Qinjue shouted. Everyone, Wang Tu did not dare to look at Lu Dubu and the others. Just leave. We're really blind to have allied with someone like you. Lu Dubu's face was livid. Xie Yuhua ignored Wang Tuesday. He told you to get lost. Why aren't you getting lost? Su Muhan, who was on the ground, shouted. Wang Tu clenched his teeth and turned to leave. Brother Tu, you take care of the aftermath. I'll lead the others to chase after Jin Dui. As Zhu Feiyu spoke, he led Yin Yuro and the other experts and teleported into the distance. Only Tu Qinjue and the 6 Qinkuan Dao court successors were left. Everyone, don't be so polite. This is a Dao sparring competition. Eliminating one more opponent means that we have more hope of success. Tu Qinjue's expression was cold. He waved his hand and said, Send them on their way. The 6 core successors of the Qinkuan Dao court, beside him, all moved forward from different directions. Their bodies were surrounded by killing intent. Wang Tu, who had already left, stood far away and looked at this area. A sinister expression appeared on his childlike face. You're still thinking about Jin Dui at a time like this. You deserve to be eliminated. But at this moment, his pupils suddenly shrank. On the battlefield, in front of Lu Dubu, Xie Yuhua, and Su Muhan who were surrounded, there was suddenly a sharp light. It was a broken blade, flowing with an obscure light of the Tao. Its sharpness was restrained, and as it gently swept across the air, as it lightly swept across, a huge circular crack appeared in the nearby void. The 6 successors of the Qingquan Dao court, who were extremely powerful and terrifying, were sent flying by this sweep of the broken blade. Rumble, that area rumbled and shook. Divine radiance burst forth, and a series of angry cries rang out. And in the vision of Tu Qinjue, Wang Tu, Lu Dubu, and the others who were scattered in different positions, a tall figure had appeared at some point in time. Chapter 2043. The figure that appeared in the field was Lin Sun. Originally, he came back to find Lu Dubu to get in touch with Long Xiujia, but he unexpectedly found such a scene. Jin Duyi. Tu Qianjue's pupils constricted, and he cried out in surprise. Just now, Zhu Feiyu and Yin Yuro left with a group of strong practitioners to hunt down Jin Duyi. Who would have thought that he would appear here? Brother Jin, Lu Dubu, and Xie Yuhua also showed disbelief. They thought that they could not escape this time and were about to be eliminated. They also did not expect that at this critical moment, Lin Sun, who had separated from them and drawn a clear line with them, would come to their rescue in time. It was too unexpected. It also made them excited, and they could not help but feel a strong sense of guilt. A few days ago, when they heard that Lin Sun had become the target of public criticism and was being hunted by various forces, they did not go to help Lin Sun with Long Xiujia in order to protect themselves. Even before that, they were worried that they would be implicated by Lin Sun and left in a hurry. But at this time, Lin Sun appeared in time to help them solve the problem, as if he did not care about the past. How could they not feel guilty? Brother Jin, we have let you down in the past. We appreciate your kindness today. Please leave quickly and don't worry about us anymore. The seriously injured Su Muhan climbed up from the ground and shouted, Go, or it will be too late. Go. Impossible. Tu Qinjue let out a long roar. Brother Zhu, Miss Yin, please return quickly. Jin Dui has appeared. The sound waves, like the sound of Tao, surged through the sky and spread far away. You can't fight alone, and you can't fight as a group. Lin Sun's black eyes were deep. As he spoke, his figure flashed, and he attacked brazenly. Moreover, he did not hold back at all. As soon as he attacked, he used his true power. In an instant, he seemed to have become another person, with peerless sharpness, peerless elegance, and peerless power. Whoosh! His bright platinum Taoist body released great light, and his speed was so fast that it was like a flickering light and passing shadow. As he pointed with his finger, puff! One of the core successors of the Universe Taoist court, who was closest to Lin Sun, had blood dripping from between his eyebrows. His bones had been pierced through. Just as he was about to die, a teleportation force appeared and brought him out of the mysterious yellow mystery realm. Lin Sun didn't even look at it. With a wave of his sleeve, dense Taishian sword Qi roared out and swept towards another opponent. That person fought with all his strength, circulating his own strength to the limit. His body was covered in divine radiance and interweaved with the light of the Tao, condensing 18 layers of battle imprints. Every single battle seal possessed an unfathomable might, and when 18 of them were stacked together, it was as if they could topple the mountains and overturn the seas. As they stacked together, their might also multiplied. 18 universe battle seals. It was one of the supreme inheritances of the Qingquan Dao court and was incomparably ferocious. However, such a supreme inheritance was nothing in front of Lin Sun's Taishian sword Qi. In a twinkling of an eye, the battle seals were broken by the mighty and dense sword Qi one by one. The roar shook the sky and splashed a dazzling rain all over the sky. Rumble, That person's figure was covered by the ocean-like sword Qi and was eliminated. In the blink of an eye, two successors of the Universe Taoist court were defeated one after another. As soon as the battle began, Lin Sun showed an absolutely crushing and invincible demeanor, which made Lu Dubu and others widen their eyes and almost couldn't believe it. They had all seen Lin Sun's elegant demeanor in the Tao discussion in Yinzhou, but at that time, he couldn't be compared with this time at all. Too strong. Lu Dubu and others' understanding of Lin Sun was completely subverted, as if they saw a complete stranger. Let's attack together. We must hold on. Our reinforcements will arrive soon. Tu Qianjue shouted. He didn't hesitate to attack with all his strength. As a strong man who had already experienced Lin Sun's combat strength, he also knew how terrible Lin Sun was. It should be known that when he led a group of people, they were seriously injured by Lin Sun's formation. In the end, even if he joined forces with Zhu Feiyu and Yin Yu Rou, they couldn't stop Lin Sun. Instead, Lin Sun easily broke through the siege. Kill, kill, kill. The remaining four successors of Qinquan Taoist court and Tu Qianjue attacked Lin Sun with all their strength. They either activated their secret methods or took out their treasures. For a moment, the area was filled with treasure light. The sound of Tao rumbled, and the world dimmed. Miss Xia, let's go together and help Brother Jean kill the enemy. Lu Dubu gritted his teeth and looked resolute. His heart was filled with guilt and gratitude, and he was eager to remedy the situation. Okay, Xie Yuhua agreed without hesitation. But before the two of them could attack, they were stopped by a graceful white figure. It was Golden Sky Moon. Her clothes were whiter than snow, and she was extremely beautiful and cold. She said, "You can just watch the battle. Brother Jean told me to be responsible for your safety." All of a sudden, Lu Dubu and Xie Yuhua were in a complicated mood. Back in the Tao discussion in Yinzhou, they could still stand shoulder to shoulder with Lin Sun, but now they couldn't help him at all. In the field, the battle was fierce. The mountains and rivers shook, and the grass and trees turned into powder. It was chaos and turbulence. Seeing this scene from afar, Wang Tu's expression was ferocious, and he shouted in his heart, "Defeat him, defeat him. He must be eliminated." Lin Sun's appearance caused Wang Tu's state of mind to become distorted. Previously, in order to survive, he didn't hesitate to betray Lin Sun in exchange for an opportunity, and in the end, he ignored Lu Dubu, Su Muhan, and Xie Yuhua and fled alone. But at this time, Lin Sun stood up and saved Lu Dubu and the others. When the two of them were compared, it made him, Wang Tu, seem extremely weak, and it caused a strand of indescribable and dense resentment to surge out from his heart. Boom! Suddenly, there was an earth-shaking roar in the field. Then, Tu Qianjue and the others who had originally surrounded Lin Sun were all shaken away. They staggered and cried out in alarm. In the field, Lin Sun's body was dazzling and peerless. Every move he made was filled with a great power that could destroy all obstacles. Everyone besieged him, but they couldn't suppress him. Instead, the besieged situation was broken by him in one fell swoop. Then, as Lin Sun's figure advanced, one opponent after another was suppressed on the spot like a piece of paper. They screamed and were eliminated. Only Tu Qianjue was left struggling in the field. This scene made Wang Tu's eyes bulge. He clenched his fists and murmured, "How is this possible? How can this guy be so powerful?" It should be known that those were the core successors of a Universe Taoism court, and there was no lack of famous figures on the King Sage list. But in front of Lin Sun, they were like clay chickens and pottery dogs. Not only Wang Tu, Lu Dubu, Xie Yuhua, and Su Muhan couldn't help but gasp. Was this his true power? At this time, Tu Qianjue was struggling. Some time ago, he was trapped in the formation and seriously injured by Lin Sun. If it wasn't for Yin Yu and Zhu Feiyu's timely rescue, he would have been eliminated. And now, the same scene was playing out again. Damn it, why aren't Zhu Feiyu and the others here yet? Tu Qianjue was anxious, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was completely suppressed by Lin Sun alone. No matter what kind of magic he used or what kind of treasures he used, They were all broken by Lin Sun in an absolutely crushing manner, causing him to be overwhelmed. Not long after, he coughed up blood repeatedly and was seriously injured. Lu Dubu and the others felt that it was inconceivable to see him in such a miserable state. He was a ruthless figure ranked in the top 10 of the King Sage list, but he looked miserable as if he was completely ravaged by Brother Jean. Stop! Suddenly, a thunderous roar rang out in the distance. A group of figures turned into divine rainbows and teleported over with great momentum. They were led by Zhu Feiyu and Yin Yu. When they saw that only Tu Qinjue was struggling and seriously injured, Zhu Feiyu and the others revealed looks of disbelief. They had only left for a short while, and such a tragic scene had already happened. The expressions of Lu Dubu and the others changed. Zhu Feiyu and the others had arrived, and there were more than 20 extremely powerful and ruthless figures. The situation had already become serious. Just continue to watch the battle. At this time, Jin Tian Xinyue still appeared very calm and unperturbed. Whether it was fleeing or fighting, he had absolute confidence in Lin Sun. In the distance, Wang Tu could not help but grin. The resentment in his heart was brewing like a raging river. Jin Di, let's see how you're going to put on a brave front next. Brother Zhu, Miss Yin, come and help me. Tu Qinjue, who had begun to feel despair, was now wild with joy, like a drowning man who had grasped the hope of survival. At this moment, Lin Sun suddenly smiled and said, "Do you know why I kept you alive until now?" "Kept me alive until now?" Tu Qinjue felt it was incredible. Could it be boom? At this moment, Lin Sun stabbed out with his fingers. The sting of sharpness. It was incredibly fast and fierce to an unprecedented extent. It was just a ray of light condensed at the tip of his finger, but it illuminated the mountains and rivers. The Taoist magic that Tu Qinjue used and the defensive power on his body were all shattered by this stab. The sting of sharpness pierced into Tu Qinjue's chest like a stunning ray of light. However, before the sting of sharpness pierced through Tu Qinjue's heart and crushed his divine soul, he disappeared into thin air. He was eliminated. A core descendant of the Universe Taoist Court, ranked 9th on the All Heavens King Sage list, was eliminated just like that. This also meant that a peerless figure like him was no longer qualified to participate in the ancient immortal forbidden area, even if he was still alive. When they saw this scene, Zhu Feiyu and Yin Yuro, who had rushed over to help, were stunned. Their pupils dilated, and indescribable anger and coldness surged in their hearts. They were angry that Lin Sun suppressed Tu Qinjue in front of them, and they did not have time to help him. They were disappointed that such a powerful, peerless figure like Tu Qinjue was eliminated just like that. One should know that Tu Qinjue's combat strength was not much worse than Zhu Feiyu's and Yin Yuro's. At this moment, Jin Tian, Xinyue, Lu Dubu, and the others could not help but be shocked. Tu Qinjue. He was definitely a giant figure in the Xianwang mystery realm. If nothing went wrong, he would undoubtedly stand out in this Taoist discussion and win the qualification to participate in the ancient immortal forbidden area. Chapter 2044. Some of the chapter titles were wrong, but they have been corrected. Bang! When the outside world witnessed the scene of Tu Qinjue being eliminated by Lin Sun, the table in front of the Fire Spirit Empress exploded together with the wine and delicacies on it, turning into powder. There was a touch of coldness between her eyebrows, as if she was suppressing the anger in her heart. She said, "Jin Di, I underestimated his ability." The nearby Emperor Realm experts looked at each other and didn't say anything. Normally speaking, an extraordinary figure like Tu Qinjue practically didn't have to worry about the risk of being eliminated in this Tao discussion. First, he was strong enough. Second, he had the Heaven and Earth Taoist court behind him. Even the Black-Yellow Secret Realm. He had many helpers. This made the possibility of him being defeated almost negligible. But no one would have thought that an accident would happen. Jin Di, who came from Yinzhou, would be so powerful that it was a complete mess. Tu Qinjue couldn't fight one-on-one. Tu Qinjue and the others were also defeated. The most important thing was that Jindu didn't care about the heaven and earth Taoist court at all. He didn't show any mercy, which led to Tu Qianjue's elimination. But obviously, the Fire Spirit Empress couldn't accept all this. Haha, now you finally admit that you underestimated Jindu. Xia Xinglia laughed. Yes, it's great to know your mistakes and change. Everyone had a strange expression. The Fire Spirit Empress was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She gritted her teeth and stared at Xia Xinglia. When she was about to say something, she was persuaded by the burning sky demon emperor of the demon court. Don't be angry, fellow. Look, Jindu is doomed. This time, he won't be able to use any more Dao markings or restrictive formations. Humph, the Fire Spirit Empress said coldly. If it weren't for the fact that the descendants of the demon court couldn't help in time, how could this happen? She also knew that it was useless to say this now, but she was a little unhappy in her heart. Seeing that the burning sky demon emperor was a little unhappy, she sighed and said, "Forget it. Let's just watch the battle." Not only her, but almost all the other Emperor Realm experts' eyes fell on Lin Sun in the Black-Yellow Secret Realm. This was the confrontation with an extremely great disparity in strength since the beginning of the Dao discussion. On one side was the camp led by Jindu, but apart from his outstanding combat power, among the others, only Jin Tianxinhua had some foundation. The others could be completely ignored. On one side were peerless figures led by Zhu Feiyu and Yin Yuro. There were more than 20 of them, and they were either core successors of the Qingquan Dao court or core successors of the demon court. With such a lineup, they could practically do whatever they wanted in the Xianhuang mystery realm. Right now, a fight was about to break out between the two sides. How would Jindu, who had repeatedly exceeded everyone's expectations and subverted everyone's understanding, resolve the predicament in front of him? Everyone was curious. Kill this demon for me. Zhu Feiyu let out a thunderous roar. He was thoroughly enraged. He was deeply provoked by the scene of Tu Qianjue being eliminated. Kill. The successors of the Heaven and Earth Dao court and the Devil Dao court were also enraged. Their killing intent soared into the heavens as they surrounded and attacked. Rumble. Thunder rumbled, and the sound of Taoism shook the heavens. All kinds of terrifying Taoism techniques poured out like a dense stream of water, surging in all directions and shattering the clouds. All kinds of treasures flashed with a destructive luster and whistled in the void, making the world dim and wail. This scene was too terrifying. More than 20 top Saint Kings in the world attacked together. If this happened in the outside world, the destructive power would absolutely be beyond imagination. All the emperors outside held their breath, thinking that the young people nowadays were more abnormal than the previous generation. Lu Dubu and the others felt a chill all over their bodies and their hair stood on end. Just looking at it from a distance made them tremble and feel a suffocating threat. It could be imagined how much pressure Jindu, who was trapped in a tight encirclement, was under. Kill him, Wang Tu grinned. His childlike face was filled with ferocity and excitement. Even Jin Tianxuanyue's heart was suddenly in her throat. She was ready to help Lin Sun at any time. It was not that she had no confidence in Lin Sun, but such a siege battle was too shocking. Of course, Lin Sun would not sit still and wait for death. At the moment when the other side made a move, he also moved. His figure flickered like a ray of light, rushing up to meet the attack. Clang! The broken blade whistled out, making a passionate and clear sound, as if it was thirsting for blood. It cut out a stunning trajectory in the void. Boom! In Lin Sun's body, his spirit was boiling like a furnace, and all the power was released by him with extreme means. At this moment, he was like a dragon coming out of the abyss. A dense purple thunderstorm shrouded him, flashing with the shocking law of the Great Way. It actually evolved into a group of vivid purple Kylan with monstrous ferocity. An ice dragon appeared under Lin Sun's feet. It raised its head and swung its tail. With a bang, it defeated the group of purple Kylan and turned them into a rain of light. Clang! The broken blade and a golden spear collided. Sparks flew, and the golden spear buzzed and was fiercely chopped away. Countless Taishian sword chi emerged around Lin Sun and suddenly spread out. 10. Directional sword rain. This was an exquisite attack inherited from the Taishian sword manual, and it was extremely suitable for group battles. Rumble, the fierce collisions were like countless volcanoes erupting at the same time. For a moment, the entire area seemed to be collapsing. The sky turned dark, and the sun and moon lost their light. There were also earth-shattering roars and cries that sounded like the roars of ancient gods and demons. It was enough to make people tremble in fear and despair. In just a moment, Lin Sun's offensive was suppressed, and he was surrounded. He was alone, and his opponents were more than 20. Among them, Zhu Feiyu and Yin Yuro were peerless figures ranked in the top 10 of the All Heavens King Sage list. Even though Lin Sun attacked with all his might, he still felt unprecedented pressure. This was also the first time he felt such a heavy threat since he had stepped into the peak of the late-stage Sage King stage. It should be known that back in the Xuanji Daoist sect, he could fight against 6 quasi-emperors with his bare hands. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the combat strength of the core successors of the 6 great Dao courts, Zhu Feiyu, Yin Yuro, and others was. It was no exaggeration to say that Zhu Feiyu and Yin Yuro already had the terrifying foundation to fight against quasi-emperors of a higher realm. However, the more pressure and threat he felt, the brighter and deeper Lin Sun's black eyes became. It was as if a great abyss that had been silent for countless years was gradually awakening. His heart was burning with fighting spirit. Kill. Everyone, go all out and kill this evil person. Zhu Feiyu's long hair was loose, and he slashed at the sky with his long sword. Sword chi crisscrossed, and it had the power to pierce through the sun and moon and split the sky and earth. Brother Jean, you can fight against so many of us by yourself. Even if you lose this battle, your prestige will not be tarnished. Yin Yuro sighed softly. She controlled the myriad of crystalline and translucent dark blue water droplets, and every single droplet transformed into a sharp blade that was like a thread and emanated an extremely fierce energy of slaughter. The rain blades could kill ghosts and gods. Prestige? If you were eliminated, you were destined to have no chance with the ancient immortal forbidden area. When that time comes, what's the use of some false prestige? Someone sneered. Jean Duyi, I advise you to surrender. Struggling is futile. Someone shouted. Other sarcastic voices rang out one after another. At present, they had surrounded Lin Sun and firmly suppressed him. They thought that victory was in their grasp and the outcome was certain, so they were all very happy. They had finally caught the first place in Yunzhou after searching for so many geniuses. Before this, each of them had been suppressing a ball of anger in their hearts. Now, they finally had a chance to vent their anger. Miss Xinyue, Brother Jean, can't hold on any longer. Let's do it quickly. Lu Dubu, Xie Yuhua, and Su Muhan were extremely anxious. This time, Lin Sun had fallen into such a situation to save them. This made them no longer care about whether they would be eliminated or not. They just wanted to fight side by side with Lin Sun. Even if they lost, they would have no regrets. Jean Tianyue's cherry lips tightened, and her heart began to waver. She took a deep breath and was about to say something. Boom! A terrifying and boundless wave of power suddenly appeared on the battlefield, causing the world to tremble and the mountains to shake. A chaotic Tao field suddenly appeared on Lin Sun, who was besieged. It was obscure and indescribable. At the same time, Lin Sun's aura also changed. Previously, he was extremely sharp and domineering. But now, he was like a ruler from the primordial abyss. He had a domineering aura that could devour the heavens, devour the earth, and seize the creation of all things. This, not good. His aura has become terrifying again. How is this possible? Zhu Feiyu, Yin Yuro, and the others felt a chill in their hearts. They felt an indescribable sense of panic. The aura that Lin Sun released at that moment had a terrifying feeling that it was about to steal their minds and souls. In the outside world, the great figures in the Emperor realm also narrowed their eyes. What kind of Tao field was this? Unfortunately, they were watching from the outside world. They were unable to see through the mysteries and wonders within, and no one could recognize it. Rumble on the battlefield, the Tao field tumbled. It was as obscure as chaos, unfathomable and immeasurable. It seemed to be able to devour the heavens. Countless exclamations sounded because the attacks that were aimed at Lin Sun at this moment, whether they were mysterious Tao techniques or powerful treasures, were all crushed by a terrifying, devouring power. The treasures of some powerhouses were almost out of control. This scene shocked Zhu Feiyu and the others. Is this Jean D's true trump card this time? Lin Sun's eyes were cold and deep as he said indifferently, "Now it's my turn to attack." When his voice rang out, the Tao domain behind him that seemed like chaos suddenly transformed into a deep and silent abyss. As his voice fell, the abyss moved horizontally, crushing the universe, shattering the earth, and releasing endless devouring power. The world was like a canvas, as if it was being torn and crushed by a big hand. Swish! Suddenly, a bright and sharp halberd rushed to Lin Sun, but it was crushed and broken in the middle. It exploded and turned into a rain of light, which was swallowed up by Lin. Everyone's expression changed again.